Chapter 1132. Kill him in a bit. Shi Huang said in a low voice, instructing some people from the Shi family. No, we can't provoke that organization. A deity warned solemnly. In reality, the divine king of the clan was present. He also shook his head slightly, indicating that he shouldn't act rashly and that he had to think of another way. Unless we invite the Hung race or the Dao race, one of the top-ranked races, we won't have to fear this organization. Otherwise, it will be very troublesome, the Shi family's divine king warned. Got it. We'll find the evolvers of the foreign wasteland race and promise them benefits. Shi Huang's eyes lit up. The foreign wasteland race was a collective name for a series of races. Their bloodlines had already surpassed divine beasts and birds and could be said to be extremely powerful. Even the strongest Buddha race and Hung race had to be wary of them. If there was anyone who didn't fear the top-ranked races like the Hung race, Li race, Dao race, and Buddha race, it would undoubtedly be the foreign wasteland race. Within this race, there were those who had separated from the other races. For example, the mechanical Buddha race had once been a supreme great Buddha, and within the foreign wasteland race, humans were the most numerous in terms of bloodline origins. Back then, the human race rose up and evolved into an existence with an ultimate bloodline, possessing a terrifying bloodline that could be passed on to their descendants. A few supreme experts broke away from the human race and established their own race. For example, some of the foreign wasteland humans had mysterious yellow blood, possessing the power to split the heavens and shake the Yang realm. Just based on bloodline alone, they had almost reached the peak. There were also foreign wasteland humans with heavenly bones that could defeat all other races. Their bones were peerless and indestructible, their battle prowess world-shaking. There were also foreign wasteland humans who had inherited unrivaled divine abilities, such as the all-seeing eye. They could quickly master any technique they saw and use it to steal all the secret texts in the world. Oh, that little wild cultivator seems to be a human. 2 foreign wasteland tribes came today, and one of them is a foreign wasteland human. I'll go find them, Shi Huang said coldly. He firmly believed that once the foreign wasteland humans appeared, that wild cultivator would definitely be finished and wouldn't have a good ending. This was because the foreign wasteland humans had the strongest bloodline among the human race, and they could be called human kings. With this bloodline, the foreign wasteland humans had developed the so-called human king domain through continuous evolution. They could specifically suppress ordinary humans. This was also the reason why they left the human race and called themselves a race. They felt that they were transcendental and powerful enough. Of course, there were also people with this kind of bloodline among the human race, and they didn't deny that they were not human. However, it was a pity that due to insufficient protection of the bloodline, the descendants of such people gradually disappeared or were lost in the vast sea of people, and their bloodline was constantly diluted. Shi Huang found his target. It was a red-haired youth with a vertical eye in the center of his brows. According to Shi clan's God King's guess, this was at least the heavens' eyes peeping art eye. It was more likely to be the all-seeing eye. If he had a discerning eye, he could steal all the secret manuals in the world. Beside the red-haired youth was another youth. Just like him, he had a full head of red hair, and his eyes were wild and unruly. Shi Huang walked over, his heart beating like a drum. Any powerful race would feel some fear when facing a foreign race, because they were simply too powerful. What made the orthodoxies in the Yang realm rejoice was that the foreign races weren't unified. They had their own mountains, and even if they were all from the human race, they were still independent from one another. Among the foreign races, there was the mechanical Buddha race, the Xianhuang human race, and the Dao race with a 9-colored bone marrow. Each and every one of them was terrifyingly powerful. If they joined forces and released the same voice, they would be above the heavens, and no one could match them. Fortunately, they didn't say that they didn't interact with each other, but they were all arrogant and rarely walked together. Shi Huang walked over and spoke in a low voice. In the end, the Shi clan's God King also appeared and made a promise to let the red-haired youth get rid of Chu Feng in the waterfall. It's a small matter. I'm a human from the foreign races. After that little wild cultivator sees me and touches my human monarch domain, he will directly tremble and kowtow. The younger red-haired youth smiled faintly. He was satisfied with the Sure clan's payment and told them that this matter was easy. Hee hee, I'll wait for the good news. Rumble. Not long after, the sky-reaching waterfall erupted with an astonishing sound of thunder. This brilliant waterfall directly turned blood red like blood water. Time's up, someone shouted. Only when it turned into a blood waterfall was it good fortune. When it appeared, a group of people fought to be the first to enter the grand waterfall. At this time, regardless of whether it was the ethereal girl suspected to be Linoy, the white tiger race's peerless beauty, or the pure and holy Buddha's son, none of them looked down on the blood waterfall and immediately rushed in. Chu Feng was no exception. He called the donkey spirit to follow him and rushed into the waterfall. It was indeed a bit strange. This waterfall looked scarlet and frightening, but the inside was dazzling and multicolored. It was as if they had entered an underwater dragon palace. What situation was this? Chu Feng was deeply astonished. I'm suffocating. Can we talk here? The Manchurian tiger shouted. He had always listened to Chu Feng's warning and didn't dare to speak carelessly outside. Now that he was inside, he couldn't hold it in anymore. His donkey eyes looked around and found everything strange. Chu Feng was also surprised. After entering, he completely understood how astonishing this sky-reaching waterfall was. It was filled with rich energy and was of a very high level. With so much falling from the sky, it was like the Milky Way pouring down. It was magnificent and magnificent. It had never stopped since ancient times. How much essence had been injected into the Yang realm? He had already noticed that after the waterfall landed, other than the pool in front of him and the very short river that was only a few kilometers long, it didn't flow far. This was directly entering the ground and being absorbed by the underground ancestral vein, leading to various parts of the Yang realm. This was equivalent to constantly replenishing energy for the Yang realm. It was no wonder that the spiritual energy in the Yang realm was dense and that the vast territory was filled with cultivators at the Sage realm. After everyone entered, they chose a favorable position. The experts rushed up, such as celestial venerables. Such creatures actually appeared and wanted to break through here. As for god monarchs, there was a group of them, and they were all famous people who shook the world. For example, Emperor Rock, the young god monarch of the peacock race, Buddha's son, a youth from the Hung race, a red-haired youth from the alien desolate race, a peerless beauty from the white tiger race, etc. There were some slightly younger creatures below them. They were a group of gods. After them were evolvers of even lower levels, including saints and people at the Golden Body realm. Chu Feng raised his head and glanced over. Ing Zhixian was together with a young core disciple from the Hung race and a few others above the waterfall. Meanwhile, De Kong, Shi Huang, the youth from the Golden Crow race, the girl who looked like Linoy, the red-haired youth from the alien desolate race, and a large group of people were below. They were practically at the very bottom. This naturally included Chu Feng, who was also in the Golden Body domain. Among them, he also saw Zhong Xiao, the core disciple of the extreme martial lineage, and a few of the younger brothers of his old friends who were opportunistically suppressed by him in the desolate border dragon nest. Chu Feng didn't pay attention to them. He found a place with the donkey spirit and sat down in peace. This waterfall was too magnificent, so there was no need to worry about crowding. The place was large enough, but those people gathered in groups of 3 to 5 to comprehend together. Needless to say, Chu Feng's place was the coldest. He endured the impact of the shocking waterfall and comprehended the Tao inside. It's a little strange. The interior of this blood waterfall is sparkling and translucent. It actually contains all kinds of rune fragments. No wonder they want to break through here. Chu Feng immediately realized the beauty of this place. During this time, he once put his finger into the stone jar and washed away the terrifying black fingerprints on it. At the same time, he also heard the terrifying voice from before. It was still the same words, something about the floating earth of the 4 poles, the two firewoods of yin and yang, the fire of the great sky, and so on. After that, Chu Feng held the wooden spear in his hand and meditated here in peace. Yes, it's really special. He was surprised. No wonder it was said that cultivating here would yield twice the results with half the effort if one held the object fished out from the waterfall. It really was so. Chu Feng held the small wooden spear that was the length of a chopstick. He discovered that the various runes in the blood waterfall were surging over at an exponential speed and surrounding him. It didn't take long before his entire body was glowing. His body seemed to be cast from gold. This was the embodiment of the golden body being nourished and tempered. This thing reacted with the reincarnation soil before. Let's give it a try. Chu Feng carefully put the wooden spear into the stone jar and inserted it into the reincarnation soil. He discovered to his surprise that the wooden spear in the jar was different. It emitted a dazzling light, and the spearhead was frighteningly sharp. It was overflowing with killing intent. He hurriedly took out the wooden spear, afraid that it would cause a commotion. He didn't know why, but this wooden spear actually seemed to be being refined when it was inserted into the stone jar. It emitted a fierce killing intent. He was afraid of alarming the others. Fortunately, the stone jar was unfathomable. It suppressed everything inside and didn't let its aura leak out. Afterwards, Chu Feng cultivated in peace. He held the wooden spear and guided all kinds of beneficial substances in the blood waterfall. His spirit and body experienced an indescribable wonder. Yeah, you do have some skill. You've cultivated a pretty good golden body at such a young age. At this time, a voice rang out. A red-haired youth appeared not far from Chu Feng. He seemed to be only about 12 years old. Who are you? What's the matter? Chu Feng asked. Everyone was in seclusion, comprehending, cultivating, and tempering themselves. Yet this youth approached him with a lack of goodwill. You are a human, and according to the agreement of the past, with the bloodline passed down from your ancestors, I am your king. Seeing me is like seeing the king of humanity. You should kowtow. The red-haired youth had a faint smile on his face as he stared at Chu Feng. Chu Feng's eyes were cold. Where did this youth come from? He dared to make him kowtow and call himself the king of humanity. One had to know that he was a human king himself. He had awakened a certain bloodline in the lesser Yin world. I'm a human. What race are you? Chu Feng asked. The foreign races have transcended the human race, the red-haired youth said proudly. Why do I feel like you're a human? Chu Feng asked again. Human race? My race is already transcended and is high and mighty. We are no longer the human race. The red-haired youth's eyes flickered and his aura was powerful and intimidating. Following that, he said in a low voice, You are a human. Seeing me is like seeing the king of humanity. Why aren't you kowtowing? Do you really want to wait for me to release my king domain? Chapter 1133. The red-haired youth laughed heartily, his face full of contempt. In his opinion, this target of his didn't know the immensity of heaven and earth. How dare he boast so shamelessly? In the history of evolution, who didn't know how terrifying the foreign races were? Because their bloodlines were too powerful and intimidated the world, they established themselves as a race that naturally restrained ordinary humans. The red-haired youth, Mo Feng, looked at him disdainfully and said, Where did this wild cultivator come from? How dare a stray chicken or a stray dog talk about a human monarch? Kneel. A layer of purplish-red halo appeared outside his body. It was a terrifying scene as soon as it appeared, bringing with it a special charm. Then, an aura that seemed to have crossed over from the prehistoric times spread out. It was grand and ancient, majestic and intimidating. Within the halo, the figure of the figure was indistinct, but one could roughly see that it was suppressing the human soul. Within the halo, an existence that seemed to be a human monarch stood in the sky with his hands clasped behind his back, overlooking the mortal world. Below him, billions of creatures were kowtowing and prostrating themselves in worship. Moreover, all kinds of sounds could be heard. Billions of creatures were chanting the human monarch and praying devoutly. After the ceremony, The oath is established. My race will be a human monarch branch. Below the figure standing high in the sky, a humanoid creature shouted. For a moment, as if some kind of agreement had been reached, the countless human evolvers kowtowed again. For a moment, Chu Feng's scalp tightened, and even his soul began to throb. He felt a pressure that transcended the river of time, as if it was crushing down from the prehistoric times. Was this a kind of oath to respect the human monarch? The ancestor of this red-haired youth was truly extraordinary. Had he once protected the human race? Or had he suppressed the great wilderness and commanded the entire world of the living? Chu Feng was quite shocked. The so-called human monarch domain released by the other party contained too much information. It was passed down from the most ancient times. Who was the enemy of the human race at that time? What kind of dark calamity had befallen the world of the living in that era? Rumble. A supreme aura spread out from the human monarch domain, as if it was specifically targeted at ordinary humans. It commanded the entire world to obey the agreement. Seeing me is like seeing the human monarch. Hurry up and kowtow, shouted Mo Feng. His eyes shone with a demonic light. His red hair danced in the wind as he looked down at Chu Feng. Chu Feng did feel an indescribable sense of urgency. It was the intimidating pressure brought by the various scenes of the past that were reflected in the purple-red halo. However, he was not afraid. He had already reached this stage and was already standing in the field of the golden body. How could he kneel to someone at the same evolutionary level? Moreover, he also had transcendent blood in his body. When he was in the Smalline realm, it was said that he had the bloodline of a human monarch, but he didn't know if that was true. Rumble. He didn't even need to deliberately resist it. The originally bright red blood in his body suddenly turned blue. It was bright and translucent, the blue sparkling and intoxicating. For a moment, all the pressure around his body disappeared. That so-called human king domain was repelled by the blue light he released. The donkey spirit had long retreated to a distance behind him. He was alarmed and didn't dare approach. Wind Void was shocked. How could there be someone who could take it head-on? One had to know that once their race came into being, they could suppress the human race everywhere. It was as if they were innately restrained and had to abide by some rules contained in the human king domain. Today he had encountered a wild cultivator, a youth who was clearly a human, but he actually failed. "Kneel!" shouted Wind Void. "You're crazy, but I'm not. Who the hell do you think you are? You should just kneel." Chu Feng had already soared up and arrived at a relatively high place. He was at the same level as the donkey spirit. The blue blood in his body surged, and an ancient aura actually appeared in his blood. It formed an awe-inspiring and inviolable glimmer and diffused outwards. A layer of mysterious halo mixed with blood energy covered the surface of his body. After being illuminated by all kinds of rune fragments in the blood waterfall, it appeared multicolored and couldn't be seen through his body. There seemed to be a layer of mysterious, close-fitting battle clothes on Chu Feng's body. The runes that belonged to a supreme human monarch who had disappeared in the passage of time interweaved, setting him off like an aloof and unsurpassable monument. Rumble. Wind Void didn't dare to tarry. He felt that the situation wasn't good. When Chu Feng soared up, he had already activated the purple-red halo around his body and added it to the human king domain. The various blurry figures and the ancient voice inside became increasingly clear, intimidating the human race youth in front of him. But this time, it was even more disadvantageous for him. The youth in front of him released a multicolored brilliance. With a boom, a corner of the human king domain was actually shattered. This made Wind Void's heart go cold. He dares to compete with a human king bloodline. He was a bit scared. He knew that no race dared to say that they were the absolute number one under the heavens. There would always be natural enemies that they could compete with. The human king domain was the same. Not all humans were afraid of it. There were some who mutated. Not to mention spiritual willpower and strength. Their bloodline alone could almost contend against them. Of course, the most extreme case was if they encountered a human king hidden among ordinary people. And the situation would be even worse. If the bloodline was stronger than his, then it would be extremely dangerous. They were the bane of their race. Rumble. The vertical eye between Wind Void's brows opened. Although it hadn't evolved to the level of the all-seeing eye and couldn't steal all the secret tomes in the world and control the enemy's life or death, it still had an offensive power that could intimidate evolvers at the same level. A purple-red beam of light flew out from his vertical eye. It was like a bolt of lightning as it blasted toward Chu Feng. What could be faster than this deadly lightning? It was within 30 meters, and it would be very difficult to evade. Golden symbols flashed in Chu Feng's eyes. After being supported by the blue blood halo, they turned blue-gold, beautiful, and astonishing. With a boom, he smashed the purple-red light and turned it into specks of energy. All of this happened in the time it took for a spark to fly off a flint. From the time the two spoke to the time they attacked, it was too fast. Chu Feng stepped forward like a bolt of lightning. He prepared to swing his fist and used the fist imprint he had comprehended from the so-called ultimate scripture he had obtained from the ancient dream path. However, as he approached, something strange happened. The blue blood in his body boiled because he had entered deep into the other party's domain. It was as if it had been stimulated. A muffled rumble rang out, as if the sky was being split open. The blood outside Chu Feng's body surged and collided intensely with the purple-red Human King domain. It's really the Human King's blood? The red-haired youth was shocked and completely terrified. He had never thought he would encounter such a prey today. How could he hunt like this? When two kings met, one was bound to be injured. In particular, he felt that his Human King's blood was actually at a slight disadvantage and was being suppressed. Even his domain was growing dim. How is this possible? You're just a wild cultivator. His expression suddenly changed. Could it be that this was a core youth from one of the other human tribes in the foreign wasteland? Could it be that he was actually a human king with a great foundation? In an instant, his state of mind was in chaos. However, after thinking about it carefully, the other party shouldn't be. According to the elders of his race, it didn't match. Although those races were exceptionally powerful, they had nothing to do with the youth before him. It's not mysterious yellow blood or heavenly bone. Who exactly are you? He was overwhelmed with shock. This was a completely new human king. He immediately understood. The ominous premonition he had before had come true. This was a branch with human king's blood lying dormant among ordinary humans. Didn't they say that this kind of race had disappeared? They were obliterated over the years, and their bloodline was continuously diluted until it was finally severed. That's right, there's a sudden change. A new human king has been born among the ordinary humans. The red-haired youth, Mo Feng, understood what was going on. He reacted quickly. This was all a thought between his brows and a flash of light in his eyes. He didn't stop moving and fiercely resisted during this process. Chu Feng broke through the Human King domain, but it was ineffective against him. He directly closed in and raised his fist to attack. After using this fist technique, not only was there blue light on the surface of Chu Feng's body, but there was also the resplendent golden light of the fist imprint. His entire body seemed to be cast from gold with a bit of blue. In addition, this fist technique also had a layer of dark red blood light. This formed an indescribable brilliance that blended together. It was extremely mysterious. Mo Feng was overwhelmed with shock. The Human King domain had failed. This was quite terrifying. He suffered a certain backlash. Blood flowed from the corner of his mouth, and his soul was trembling. How is this possible? This was a trump card researched by the ancestors of his race. It involved prehistoric O's and a mysterious great Tao fragment that was activated from within his blood. This was where his confidence came from. Even if he encountered a new human king, he wouldn't be afraid. After all, the other party only had a powerful bloodline and didn't possess the human king domain that had been researched by past human kings. There was indeed no special halo around Chu Feng's body, but he broke through it with pure power. He didn't fear the other party's domain. The blue blood hadn't formed a domain, but it was still terrifying. Mo Feng's entire body shone. Even his ears, nose, and mouth were gushing with divine radiance. Rainbows shot out from his 7 apertures. He was doing everything he could to use all kinds of secret techniques to kill Chu Feng. His hair stood on end when someone was so close to him. He wanted nothing more than to use all of his trump cards and immediately kill this person. However, he failed. In this intense battle, he had lost the initiative. One wrong step led to many wrong steps. The most important thing was the backlash of the human king domain. The domain suppressed him instead. After being attacked by Chu Feng's blood qi, it collapsed continuously and then rolled back into Mo Feng's body. Mo Feng coughed up a large mouthful of blood. His eyes were wide open. He was terrified inside. It wasn't that he was defeated, not that he couldn't defeat the other party, but that he had fallen into the swamp of death that he had laid out himself. Their branch's kings had researched the human king domain and were high and mighty. But now it was used on him. This was a prehistoric agreement and rule. He roared. His entire body was covered in blood, and his 7 apertures were filled with reddish-purple liquid. The most terrifying thing was that there was a kind of suppression that originated from his spirit. An indescribable fear made him unable to stand. In the end, his legs went soft, and he was about to kneel down. This was the most powerful backlash. He had originally suppressed others from prostrating themselves in worship, but now the situation was completely reversed. No, he struggled with all of his strength. However, he was completely powerless to resist Chu Feng's fist. This was because he couldn't use it even if he had the strength. Even if he had heaven-reaching methods, he had long since fallen into his own trap. Bang! He flew out horizontally. Then, he could no longer support himself. His body trembled and his knees went soft. He lowered his head and knelt down uncontrollably. In the distance, the people didn't know what was happening here. Because there was a bloody waterfall in the way and dense mist rising, it effectively cut off the probing of divine will. However, everyone knew that Mo Feng had entered that area to cause trouble for Chu Feng. Many people guessed that the wandering cultivator youth was in great trouble. After all, he was a human. When faced with the pressure from the human race and the suppression of a human king bloodline possessor, he was innately defeated. The Mo clan was a clan that was known as a king among humans. However, what was happening was clearly beyond their expectations and imagination. The battle had stopped. The occasional sound of thunder and glaring light had all dimmed. The truth has been revealed. Who's going to take a look? Someone asked. At this moment, whether it was Ing Zhixian, the Hung clan young master, or the young golden crow, everyone felt that there was no longer any suspense. Shi Huang wore a smile on his face. He was a bit reserved and didn't say anything. After all, he had made a fool of himself before and didn't want to show too much enthusiasm now. However, his expression was enough to explain everything. Beside him, the evolver that followed him immediately spoke on his behalf. With the appearance of the human race from the foreign wilderness, is there any suspense left? That wild cultivator is only a pitiful prey that has already been hunted. Shi Huang still didn't say anything, but he was laughing. Chapter 1134. Mo Feng felt too humiliated. He had actually knelt in front of that person. This was what he had asked the other party to do, to show him the highest form of respect. Now it seemed that everything had been reversed. This kind of situation made him go crazy, and at the same time, he felt a little scared. A new human king had appeared among the mortals. Whether it was his branch or the other alien races, if they knew about it, it would be a huge matter. The birth of a new human king would have a huge impact. How strong was his bloodline? What unfathomable abilities did he have? Would he be able to transcend the human race in the future and stand on his own? Of course, what he was most worried about was that he had been captured alive. Moreover, he had to shamelessly kneel in front of this person. It was too humiliating. Will he be killed? Is this what you meant by seeing you is like seeing a human king? Why are you acting so holy? Chu Feng had a smile on his face, but it was very cold. He stood there and looked down at him. With just this one sentence, Windvoid's face and neck turned red. However, he could not get up and was still kowtowing. This kind of backlash was too strong. Even with their clan's bloodline, which was hard to find opponents, they could not withstand the backlash from their ancestors' blood and oath. He felt a sense of shame and struggled with all his might. However, his head banged against the protruding cliff that rose from the ground. He couldn't break free. What are you pretending for? Chu Feng went up and didn't even use his hand to slap him. Instead, he raised his leg and kicked him. It didn't matter if it was his face or chest. He kicked Mo Feng until he was rolling on the ground, covered in blood. Even with his human king physique, he couldn't withstand this kind of beating. The sound of bones cracking and blood splashing rang out again and again. I hate today's battle. If it had been a fair fight, I would have definitely crippled you. You got caught in a trap of your own making. I didn't use my true power. Mo Feng growled. He was really unconvinced. He wanted to use his trump card, but it was already too late. He was suffering from the backlash, and he was powerless even though he wanted to. Now that he was beaten like this, his humiliation turned into anger. Ow! This time, Chu Feng squatted down and slapped him. I love treating stubborn people like you. You're not convinced, right? I'll win you over with virtue. Mo Feng was slightly excited. Could it be that the other party would let him go and fight fairly? He sneered in his heart. This fool. However, he didn't wait for the other party to stop. Instead, the other party slapped him again, and all of the slaps landed on his face. His facial bones broke into several pieces, and his face was completely deformed. Intense pain, humiliation, and an indescribable anger made his eyes spit fire. The vertical eye between his brows throbbed as he wanted to erupt with divine might. However, the backlash had yet to disappear. He had the heart, but the lack of strength. He couldn't use his wonderful technique, nor could he use his trump card. For a time, blood flowed from his ears and nose, and his eyes almost split apart. He was so angry that he became irritable, and his heart went mad. Bastard! Is this what you mean by winning people by virtue? Do you dare to fight me fairly? Windvoid shouted. Nonsense! If this isn't using virtue to win people over, then what is? I am using martial virtue to win people over. I will beat you to death. In one breath, Chu Feng slapped him 13 times in the face, both positive and negative, but he still had the strength to do so. What the hell? Using martial virtue to win people over? Or in short, using virtue to win people over. Windvoid was ashamed and angry, but there was nothing he could do. He couldn't change anything. Chu Feng beat him up so violently that he didn't even look like a human anymore. He was like a pile of mud, limp as he hung on a rock on the cliff. In any case, your race thinks that they are above the human race and don't see themselves as humans. It's normal that you don't look like a human. Next, Chu Feng let out a long sigh and said, Now I feel better. I love using virtue to win people over. Only then can I feel good. Windvoid was hanging on the cliff, twitching there. If he could move, he really would go crazy. He had been beaten half to death, and the humiliation was deep in his bones. Should I kill him or not? If I kill him, I reckon someone will find out. What if this bastard has some soul light connected to the soul lamp outside? That won't be good. Chu Feng really wanted to chop him to death and save himself the trouble. However, the location wasn't right. Once the old man outside found out that a direct descendant of the foreign race had died, he reckoned he would rush in immediately. Now, the blood waterfall was isolated from the outside world by a special substance that prevented people from searching. No one would know what had happened here in a short period of time. Mo Feng felt his hair stand on end. He shut his mouth tightly and no longer dared to speak. He was truly afraid that Chu Feng would kill him. Although he had a noble status, his life was worth less than grass after encountering such a vicious and merciless human king. He was extremely afraid. Forget it. I'll let you live for now. Be good and listen to me, understand? Chu Feng patted his face. Windvoid felt deeply ashamed, but he didn't dare to retort. He waited in silence and swore to himself that if they met again in the future, he would ruthlessly torture him and then kill him to wash away this humiliation. Especially when his blood underwent a second transformation and its color changed once more, he would use his human king domain once more to suppress the other party to kowtow. You're angry in your heart, aren't you? Chu Feng looked at him and then gave him a backhand slap. This young master is fearless. Be it now or in the future, I will always win people over with virtue. In the end, Chu Feng kicked him twice more and said hatefully, "Damn your grandpa. Wasting my time for no reason. It's only been a night. How many Dao insights have I lost?" He stomped on Wind Void until he fainted. Then he continuously attacked and completely sealed him, making it difficult for him to wake up. Brother, this is exciting and satisfying. What human king? He's simply a human meat bun. It feels so good to beat him up. The donkey spirit shouted in the distance. Olgu was also there. He scolded the Manchurian tiger to go into seclusion and not waste time. The old man really wanted to go higher up the waterfall to cultivate and go into seclusion, but he felt that it was better to stay by Wind Void's side. He had experienced the benefits of Chu Feng's wooden spear. Even he could benefit from it. All kinds of symbols surged over. This is a good treasure with extraordinary origins. It's a heavenly object from beyond this realm. He cried out excitedly. Chu Feng ignored him. He imitated Wind Void's voice and shouted, "I'm in seclusion here. Please don't disturb me." That was because he felt that someone was approaching and wanted to spy on him. Shi Huang's followers and the others were all startled when they heard this. Some people had approached quietly to see what was going on, but they had no choice but to stop and slowly retreat. No one was willing to provoke the foreign wasteland race. However, Shi Huang and the others in the distance smiled even more widely. Since they had heard Wind Void's voice, everything was clear. The foreign wasteland youth had succeeded in his hunt. Some people couldn't help but laugh heartily. Chu Feng was also laughing. The corners of his mouth curled up slightly, and then he began his seclusion. After midnight, his body shone with resplendent golden light. He was submerged in all kinds of symbols, baptizing his body and condensing his spirit. There was a special substance in this waterfall. It was too peculiar and was actually greatly beneficial to his golden body. His body first shone with golden light, and then it turned bluish gold. Then it changed again. Multicolored light flowed out from all his cells. His spiritual energy condensed and dispersed, rushing into every inch of his flesh and blood and constantly fusing with it. Chu Feng was divine and flawless from the inside out. He had reached the end of the golden body domain. In truth, Chu Feng didn't know how powerful his golden body was. He continuously circulated the robbery induction breathing technique, the ancient dream breathing technique, and then the thunderous sound breathing technique. In the end, he even used the so-called ultimate scripture fist imprint. He felt that he had already tempered it to a certain level. His body and spirit couldn't go any further. His entire body became translucent with multicolored golden light. His flesh and spirit were flawless like a dreamy crystal. Boom! It was also at this time that a bolt of heavenly lightning appeared out of nowhere. It blasted him until his eyes rolled back and his hair stood on end. God damn it, I've been struck by lightning. Chu Feng wanted to curse at the first moment because he thought someone had launched a sneak attack on him. But when he raised his head, he felt dizzy. This was a heavenly tribulation, not an outsider's attack. Generally speaking, in the Yang realm, when evolvers reached the Saint realm, a small number of experts would provoke a heavenly tribulation. Very few people could cross the tribulation at the half-saint realm, let alone the golden body realm. He had crossed the tribulation ahead of time. This was enough to prove the strength of the golden body he cultivated. He was being examined and targeted by the heavens' laws here. I'll win people over with virtue. Who's afraid of who? Chu Feng didn't believe in heresy. After being struck by lightning, he challenged here. Crack! An expanse of lightning struck down, causing his whole body to emit black smoke. He was in unbearable pain. This was really winning people over with virtue. Chu Feng grimaced in pain. His delicate and pretty face was dark and swarthy. Only his teeth were still so white, but they were spewing out arcs of electricity. Not far away, Mo Foam was almost struck to death. His body was already tattered and hung on the stone wall like mud. Now, he was struck until he was like charcoal. His body was almost shriveled up, and the blood that flowed out was dried up and turned into scabs. Roar! He let out a loud roar. He was almost struck to death, but he finally recovered. This lightning stimulated all the potential in his body, and he was no longer unconscious. In the distance, a few people heard his roar and were all shaken. Although they had long since guessed that he was crossing the tribulation, they were still moved after confirming it. As expected of a foreign, desolate race. Amazing. What kind of golden body has he cultivated? Whoosh! Chu Feng rushed over and picked him up. After a series of slaps, he was sealed once again. During this process, an expanse of lightning descended. It was extremely terrifying, and the radiance was incomparably brilliant. In just an instant, Mo Feng, who had lost all resistance, almost turned into charcoal. In his final consciousness, he was incomparably furious. This was too shameful. At the same time, he was also resentful. If he missed out on this night, who knew how many years he would have to wait before he could encounter the blood waterfall again? The opportunity to comprehend the Tao was far from him, and if he wanted to make up for it elsewhere, the price would be too great. Watch him, don't let him die. Chu Feng threw Mo Feng to the donkey spirit and old goo in the distance. For a moment, Chu Feng felt sour and refreshed. He had been struck by the heavenly lightning until he was charred on the outside and tender on the inside. He could even smell the fragrance of meat. The heavenly blood waterfall could isolate space and hide him here. The lightning was very dense. The space it took up wasn't very wide, but it was incomparably concentrated. Chu Feng was convinced by virtue, so he had no choice but to work hard to resist it. He was crossing the tribulation. His body and spirit were being baptized at the same time, becoming increasingly tenacious. He was approaching the end of the lightning tribulation and was about to make it through. Outside, Ingwudi, the young Golden Crow King, and the others were all sighing. This foreign desolate race's young human king was too powerful. It was only the middle of the night, and he was already crossing the tribulation. At this moment, even the great sky revealed an astonished expression. Just what item was the other party holding in his hand to resonate with the waterfall and reach perfection so quickly? In the distance, the girl resembling Linoy and the young master of the peacock race also revealed strange expressions. In the end, Shi Huang couldn't bear it anymore and said, "Hee, I already said that once Brother Mo Feng appeared, who could compete with him? I wonder how the prey is doing. Don't tell me he's already turned into charcoal under the foreign desolate race's lightning tribulation." "He's definitely dead," someone echoed. Chapter 1135. The group of people prepared to welcome the foreign desolate race's human king Void Wind out of seclusion. Shi Huang was filled with incomparable anticipation. Rumble. Within the waterfall of blood, the streaks of lightning were extremely concentrated. All of them hacked towards Chu Feng's body. His 7 apertures were surging with lightning, and his entire body was about to be roasted. This lightning was terrifyingly powerful. Forget about ordinary golden body level evolvers. Even the best among them would find it difficult to survive. A single bolt of lightning was enough to turn a creature of this realm into ashes. Chu Feng's entire body was electrified. His body was shaking like a sieve, and he simply wished he was dead. Even his bone marrow was filled with electricity, and even his eyeballs were surging with electricity. Crackling sounds rang out. This feeling was indescribable. He cursed. This lightning was too powerful. Was it meant for humans to cross? It was completely a dead end. He had to be slaughtered no matter what. Even though it looked like it was coming to an end, it still wasn't over. This kind of heavenly tribulation was even greater and more terrifying than the ones he encountered in the Little Een realm and the Foreign realm. It was catastrophic, and it was determined to strangle him. Is there no end to this? He roared. Apart from spitting out arcs of electricity from his mouth and nose, there was also thick black smoke rising. This was a sign that his body was seriously damaged. White bones were hacked out, and in the end, they became black bones again. His flesh was even more dried up and falling off. It was a tragic sight to behold. Kacha! Rumble! Above his head, a waterfall of blood poured down. Lightning interweaved, and disaster continuously poured down. Thunder rumbled, as if it was saying, "This old man subdues people with virtue." Chu Feng truly couldn't take it anymore. If he had the strength to spare, he really wanted to point at the heavens and curse. Was this going to torture him to death? His blue blood was about to dry up, and his bone marrow was about to be completely cooked. Chu Feng was in an extremely miserable state, and there was no end to his suffering. How long was this going to last? Brother Voidwind is truly worthy of reverence. He's only 11 or 12, right? He's actually crossing such a golden body tribulation. Why do I feel that he's only stronger than those famous people in history? Someone sighed with regret, feeling extremely shocked. Shi Huang nodded and said, "Don't you know who Brother Voidwind is? He comes from a foreign, desolate race, and his body contains the bloodline of a human king. He's the continuation of his ancestors' life. As a core disciple, how can he not be strong?" Chu Feng was tormented to the point of hovering between life and death. He was exhausted and somewhat unable to endure it. This kind of tribulation could only be endured passively. There was no way to avoid it even if he wanted to. Clang! He tossed out the Heaven Blood Star Space Mother Gold Dagger in an attempt to conduct electricity and divert the thunderbolt to one side. It had some initial effect, but in the blink of an eye, the thunderbolt rushed towards him again. It was as if a living creature was looking down on him. The thunderbolt seemed to have a mind of its own as it chased after him and struck him. Chu Feng wasn't convinced. He didn't believe in heresy. Since he couldn't avoid it, he called out in a hoarse voice, "Come on, come on. Young master feels so good. I feel like I'm walking on clouds. I'm about to ascend to the heavens." Boom! In the end, 6 streaks of lightning landed on his body. The light was glaring, and even his bone marrow was being boiled by the electricity. Then, this place immediately became dim. All the lightning suddenly disappeared, and the heavenly tribulation ended. Chu Feng really didn't want to move anymore. Like a dead fish, he moved his body with great difficulty. He hung himself on a distant cliff that was riddled with holes and rested there. The Manchurian tiger scuttled over immediately. He was very worried and shouted, "Brother, are you all right?" He poured the Granny Meng soup into Chu Feng's mouth to help him recover. "I'm fine. There are many benefits. I'll do it myself." Chu Feng endured the pain and sat there cross-legged. He circulated his breathing technique and endured the heavenly tribulation. The thunderbolt contained both destruction and exuberant vitality. A special lightning light flickered within his withered body, and there was a rich aura of life within. Chu Feng was recovering rapidly. With a crackling sound, a layer of his old skin was shed. He took out the Granny Meng soup and drank it in large mouthfuls. This was indeed a great and beneficial supplement. Very soon, Chu Feng's body glowed with blue light. With a boom, his bone marrow became as dazzling as a star. It seemed as if it was burning as it surged and regenerated continuously. Following which, his dried-up blood began to appear. More and more of it flowed within his body. It was as if the rainy season had arrived, and the blue human monarch blood had recovered. It was even richer than before. At this moment, he experienced a type of incomparably powerful power. His vitality completely erupted. However, after an unknown amount of time, Chu Feng's injured body had completely recovered. The vitality within his body was flourishing, and the human monarch blood was even more powerful than before. It was as blue as the sky. After he calmed down, he carried out some changes. The blood slowly transformed and returned to a bright red color. According to what Mo Feng said, the human monarch blood can undergo a second transformation. The color will change and become even more powerful. Will the blue blood within my body become another color in the future? Chu Feng pondered. He had completely recovered. His body and spirit were unprecedentedly good, and he was extremely powerful within the golden body domain. His golden body carried a hazy blue radiance. It was quite astonishing. "I've returned to the sun. It's fine now. I have to go into isolation," said the Manchurian tiger. He didn't want to waste this rare opportunity and had to cherish his time. Old Gu was also floating beside him. He had helped to protect him just now, and now he threw Mo Feng to Chu Feng and also went into isolation. In the distance, some people arrived with smiles on their faces. They came over to congratulate him. "Congratulations, brother Mo, crossing tribulation in the golden body domain, competing with those famous figures in history. This truly is an achievement that will be recorded in the history books." Someone said with a smile, "Brother Mo Feng, you successfully hunted and then crossed the golden body tribulation. Your name will definitely shake the ancients and dazzle the contemporaries." Shi Huang came and praised in an exaggerated manner. His face was full of smiles as he shouted loudly. However, the next moment, all of the smiles on his face froze, and his voice came to a screeching halt. Whose figure did he see? That young rogue cultivator. It was as if he had been struck by a club. His entire being was stupefied. He swallowed all of the words in his mouth, choking until his face and neck became red. It was too uncomfortable. Shi Huang staggered. He wanted to vomit blood. How could it be that rogue cultivator? This scene, this conclusion, made him widen his eyes, finding it hard to accept. The others were all stupefied, and those who came with Shi Huang were all dumbstruck. This place became quiet, and there was no sound. The scene was too strange. They saw Mo Feng hanging from the broken stone wall in front of the young rogue cultivator. He was like a piece of charcoal, half dead and half alive. He was actually crawling at the young rogue cultivator's feet. This truly shocked them. That was a direct descendant of a foreign desolate race. Yet not only did he not complete his hunt, he was instead captured and killed like a lump of mud. In that instant, they thought of many things. All of their previous guesses were wrong. This conclusion was too cruel. It was as if heavenly lightning had struck them, striking them until they were about to turn into mush. Are you trying to kill the foreign desolate race by killing Mo Feng?" Someone shouted. His complexion was a bit off, and his face was a bit pale. This was especially true for Shi Huang. His face was completely pale. If Mo Feng died here, he wouldn't be able to escape. He was the one who instigated this attack. That's the heavenly blood-starry space source gold dagger. He's G-Date. Someone cried out strangely, recognizing the dagger stabbed into the cliff. Back then, during the struggle for supremacy in the dragon nest, Chu Feng seized this dagger. Quite a few people knew about it. It was clear that there were participants here back then. They had grown from children to young adults. Chu Feng rubbed his face, hiding his true appearance. He turned around. He felt that he had miscalculated. After crossing the tribulation, he was only focused on recovering. He was too pressed for time and didn't have time to put away the source gold dagger. However, it wasn't that big of a deal. G-Dade was only his disguise. He wouldn't reveal his true identity. G-Dade. Correct. I'm called G-Dade. No matter who I fight, I always win them over with virtue. Chu Feng faced everyone. "You dare to act so underhanded? You're dead for sure this time." Shi Huang didn't get angry. Instead, he began to laugh. It was because he recalled that Mo Feng's older brother was also in the blood waterfall above it. He turned around and ran. However, Chu Feng didn't like him to the extreme. He turned into a streak of golden blue light and chased after him. With a honglong sound, Shi Huang was blasted flying. He coughed out large mouthfuls of blood. It was just a single attack, but it already proved how powerful his golden body was. "Hurry and report to Mo Lei. Ask him to take action." Shi Huang shouted. Mo Lei was right above. He was a divine king. When he found out that his younger brother was in such a miserable state and was captured, he would definitely rush over to kill him. Shi Huang shouted like this for his own life. He feared that Chu Feng would slaughter him here, and he needed Mo Lei to save him. So. The people who came with him were all close to him. They all ran and rushed up. Chu Feng couldn't stop them all. Some escaped, and some were blasted to the point of death, their bodies covered in blood. How long? Almost in an instant, Mo Lei appeared and directly rushed over. His expression was ice cold. His younger brother was actually defeated here while hunting humans? This was unimaginable. Their clan was known as a branch of human kings, yet they were defeated by a human cultivator. Let him go. Mo Lei's expression was cold. He was already furious when his comprehension was disturbed. Now, when he saw his younger brother's miserable appearance, his expression became even more unsightly. If not for the blood waterfall isolating perception, he would have discovered it immediately and wouldn't have allowed such a thing to happen. Now, his younger brother had become a human use prisoner. If news of this got out, it would be too embarrassing and humiliating. Chu Feng was ready for battle. He originally wanted to run, but this Mo Lei was too fast. He didn't even have time to escape. In particular, he felt that the organization wasn't reliable. What happened to the promised protection? Why didn't they show themselves? No one came out. As a last resort, Chu Feng held Mo Feng with the heavenly blood star space mother sword pressed against his forehead. At the same time, he held the heaven-turning seal in his other hand. Old Gu was very cooperative. You dare resist? You're courting death. Mo Lei said coldly. He was a divine king. Facing such a small cultivator, it was very easy to crush him. Even if the other party captured his younger brother, it wouldn't be a big deal. In an instant, he released his domain, wanting to imprison Chu Feng. It was useless to use his younger brother to threaten this kind of wild cultivator. He had no chance to kill him. How long? At the crucial moment, Old Gu moved. The heaven-turning seal that Chu Feng smashed out erupted with divine, king-level energy. Bang! Mo Lei's divine king domain was blasted away. It couldn't envelop Chu Feng and imprison him. In the distance, the heavily injured Shi Huang and the others retreated in panic. They left this area and hid in the depths of the blood waterfall. Once the divine king-level energy spread, they would definitely be in dire straits. If they didn't leave the blood waterfall, they would lose this opportunity to comprehend the Tao and would never be able to enter again. They really wanted to leave this place completely. It's fine. The blood waterfall can prevent the divine king-level energy from spreading. Only that area is dangerous. We'll wait here. That G-Dade is dead for sure. Shi Huang gritted his teeth. He felt like he had 8 lifetimes worth of bad luck today. First, he was beaten up and humiliated. Then, he invited Mo Feng of the alien desolate race to take revenge. Yet, things still went wrong, and everything went wrong. What made him feel at ease was that now that the Divine King had made a move and Mo Lei had appeared, that wild cultivator was dead without a doubt. He wouldn't have another chance. Hey, you have some skill. This is a heavenly gold sarcophagus that was smelted into a secret treasure. Is there a corpse inside? There are some secrets. Mo Lei's expression was cold. He looked down at Chu Feng and said, "How do you want to die?" He didn't care about Chu Feng and Old Gu at all. That was because he was a divine king-level evolver of the alien desolate race. Although he wasn't peerless among his peers, there weren't many creatures that could keep him in check. The humanoid king bloodline was boundlessly terrifying. He wasn't afraid that Chu Feng would kill his brother. He was confident that he could stop it. Even if that so-called heaven-turning seal had some skill, he was confident that he could suppress it. I'm living well. I don't want to die at all. Chu Feng called the Manchurian tiger over and stuffed it into the stone jar. An ant-like inferior bloodline dares to be so stubborn in front of the alien desolate race's divine king? I'll stomp you to death. I'll leave your remnant soul to be the wick and light it for 100 years. Mo Lei didn't have any hesitation. He stomped down with the sole of his foot enlarged. He wanted to stomp Chu Feng to death. Moreover, he stretched out his hands. He wanted to take his brother away while dealing with Old Gu. Get over here and die. The sole of his foot glowed and formed a purple-red vortex. He wanted to suck Chu Feng over. He wanted to imprison him and stomp him to death. He wanted to end his life in the most humiliating way. "I'll kill you first," shouted Chu Feng. He was naturally furious. So what if he was a divine king? The alien desolate race was just that high. He did everything he could and used his trump card. He wanted to fight to the death and kill the other party. Chapter 1136. Kill me? Who do you think you are? You're worse than an insect, Emole said coldly. He was high and mighty as he stepped toward Chu Feng's head. Watch my imperial sword technique, immortal emergence sword. Chu Feng shouted. That heavenly blood star space mother gold sword revolved around him, making hissing sounds and emitting glaring multicolored light. Emole's expression was cold. A mere golden Arhut cultivator dared to boast shamelessly and use his sword in front of him? However, this sword was made of mother gold, which made his heart flutter. He was about to obtain a treasure for nothing. This was his great harvest this time. His foot arrived. He deliberately controlled it to avoid destroying Chu Feng's body and soul. He was really afraid that this youth would turn into a bloody pulp on the spot and then turn into ashes. The purplish-red vortex in front of Emole's foot possessed unfathomable power as it pulled Chu Feng over. Boom! At the same time, Emole flicked his finger and struck the heavenly gold sarcophagus. Blood chi burst forth. At this moment, he was even more worried. He was afraid that Chu Feng would die miserably in this kind of collision. He activated his divine light to cover him and prevent the divine king level energy from annihilating him. He felt that it was fine if this wandering cultivator's physical body was destroyed, but he still had to leave his soul light and torture him. Blood splashed. Chu Feng suddenly activated the mother gold sword and pierced into the purplish-red vortex, injuring Emole's foot. In a split second, Emole was shocked. A little cultivator actually injured him? How is this possible? He was a divine king. Although he intentionally restrained himself and suppressed his energy to the lowest level in order to leave that wandering cultivator's soul light behind, it wasn't just this. He knew that the other party had the strength of a divine king. What was this situation? He really didn't dare to believe it. There was a vertical pupil on his forehead. Although it hadn't reached the level of the all-seeing eye, it could still see through all kinds of falsehoods. Emole was sure that this was only a youth. His bone age was no more than 11 or 12 years old. He actually reached the divine king level. At this moment, the old man who cooperated well with him had already transformed into a palm-sized heavenly gold sarcophagus and appeared in Chu Feng's hand. He stuffed it into the stone jar. At the same time, Chu Feng crushed the captive wind void in his hand. You're courting death. Emole was shocked and furious. All of this had happened too suddenly. He was a divine king of the foreign desolate tribe. His strength was terrifying, and he did not fear any threats at all. He could not allow that youth to kill his brother right before his eyes. But now, everything had been subverted. Shua, Chu Feng had gone mad. Holding the mother gold sword, he wished he could transform into a beam of light and burrow into his stone jar with all his might. He wanted to hide in it as soon as possible. All of this happened in the time it took for a spark to fly off a piece of flint. It was so fast that even if the Divine King was slightly distracted, he couldn't stop it or react in time. This was because Chu Feng had used his past life's Tao fruit, and he was using a God King level technique. Die! Emole was unable to restrain his anger. His lungs were about to explode. He suspected that this was an old monster who had once eaten a famous great medicine in the Yang realm. As a result, he had made a mistake in judging the age of his bones. Was this specially here to scam him? In the instant that he made his move, his entire body tensed up and his scalp went numb. A deadly sense of danger appeared, leaving him horrified. Kacha! The lightning was like a waterfall, bringing with it white mist as if it had struck down from the heavens. It covered this place and struck Emole's body, causing his blood to splatter dozens of feet on the spot. What kind of lightning was this? It was the Divine King Tribulation. Moreover, it was the strongest Divine King Tribulation in the world. It was horrifying. Chu Feng had smuggled himself over from the ultimate land of reincarnation. He had descended into this world with his corporeal body. His past life's Tao fruit wasn't tolerated by this world. Once it appeared, it would be a destructive disaster. In his previous life, he was at the divine king level. Therefore, once he appeared in this world, he would be punished by the strongest divine king tribulation in the history of the Yang realm. Back then, in the desolate border, Chu Feng had only suffered a few bolts of lightning, and he had almost died. If he had been slightly delayed, his body and soul would have been destroyed. Therefore, he had hidden his past life's Tao fruit and sealed it in that small gray millstone, isolating it from the great world. Now that he had encountered the most dangerous situation, it was clearly a dead end. He naturally didn't hold back and used the methods of his past life to draw the strongest divine king tribulation in history. Mo was very strong. He was a rare expert, even among divine kings. After all, he came from a foreign, desolate race. However, facing the lightning that could be called the strongest divine king tribulation, he still couldn't stand it. It had only been a few moves, and his body was about to be split open. Rumble. Concentrated lightning descended and struck down all of them. Mo was shocked and furious. What situation was this? He didn't understand at all. Why did he suddenly cross the tribulation? This was the heavenly tribulation that the other party drew, but how could it be so powerful? This was too strange and didn't conform to common sense at all. He wanted to move his body horizontally, but it was already too late. This lightning descended and all struck his body, piercing through it on the spot. His flesh was badly mangled. This was quite miserable. His entire divine king body was drowned in the blazing lightning. It was already too late to escape. His body was in tatters, almost falling apart. Mo was shocked and furious. He had fallen into such a situation. The most tragic thing was that his younger brother had died. Moreover, he had been blown up in front of him, his body and soul destroyed. He had once looked down on that young, wandering cultivator coldly, thinking that the other party couldn't even threaten him. That was because they weren't on the same level. The difference was too great. Mo Feng died tragically. Even if he had the death substitute talisman in his body, it was useless. When a golden body evolver faced the energy of a divine king, the death substitute talisman wouldn't work either. The difference was too great. He would be completely destroyed immediately. Mo roared angrily, but he couldn't be distracted. He risked his life to resist the strongest divine king tribulation in history. What's going on? In the distance, many people were shocked. They felt a kind of horrified aura. That thunder was too loud. The waterfall that enveloped that region was world-shocking. Fortunately, the sky-piercing waterfall was special. It was incomparably astonishing. All of the lightning was concentrated in one spot, and it didn't cover this vast sea-like waterfall. What a heaven-warping talent. Did you guys hear that? This is divine King Mo's voice. He is crossing the tribulation. Shi Huang shouted. Of course, he was bewildered. Didn't this Mo go to kill Ji-Dade? Why did he suddenly cross the tribulation? However, he thought that killing Ji-Dade wouldn't take much effort. The moment Mo appeared, he killed with a raise of his hand. Could it be that after killing the young wandering cultivator, he felt something in his heart and directly crossed the tribulation? The others were also endlessly astonished. However, Shi Huang had embarrassed himself not too long ago. He even mistook who was crossing the tribulation and mistakenly thought that Mo Feng had crossed the golden body tribulation. In the end, he made a blunder. This time, he was more cautious and his attitude was very low. He asked Kong to use his fiery eyes to see what was going on. In reality, many people in this region were very shocked. They wanted to understand what was going on, such as Ing Zhixian, the young golden crow, and the young girl who looked like Linoy. The Kong was no exception. He was very sensitive and was boundlessly fearful of that kind of heavenly tribulation. As such, he listened to Shi Huang's request and suggestion and opened his fiery eyes to take a closer look. Yes, it's Mo crossing the tribulation. He only took a glance before he sucked in a breath of cold air. He felt a piercing pain in his eyes. That heavenly tribulation was really too terrifying. He quickly closed his eyes and no longer used his fiery eyes. The sky-piercing waterfall was special. It isolated perception and so on. Only his fiery eyes could see the hazy scene over there from such a distance. When everyone heard this, they all gasped in admiration. The alien desolate race was indeed terrifying. Their divine king tribulation was indeed a little too powerful. It was so terrifying even from such a distance in this special, sky-piercing waterfall. It was somewhat terrifying, as expected of a branch of the transcending human kings that broke away from the human race. "It's too terrifying," someone said with a sigh. Shi Huang nodded and said, "Such a heavenly tribulation makes people revere it. Mo is worthy of being a peerless hero." At this moment, Evening Zhexian's eyes blossomed with extraordinary splendor. The white tiger race beauties who came over after hearing the news all revealed astonished expressions. Everyone present was moved and gasped in admiration. But in reality, Mo wanted to curse. He was seething with anger, and his heart was going crazy. How was he crossing the tribulation? It was drawn over by someone else, and he was passive. This kind of mood, there was no need to mention it. He wanted to eat Chu Feng alive because it was too unbearable. He was almost annihilated. As for Chu Feng, he was also very miserable. Even though he charged into the stone jar at the first instance, he was still grazed by some lightning and was badly mangled. It was too dangerous. He was covered in blood from head to toe. He hid in the stone jar and directly sealed the jar's mouth. Only then did he escape the calamity. The reason why he normally wasn't willing to use this kind of trump card was because he was afraid of throwing his life away. Back then in the desolate border, he had experienced it and was abused to the point where he wished he was dead. He hovered between life and death. If he was the slightest bit careless, he wouldn't be able to escape in time. He would truly face the tribulation passively and was destined to die a miserable death. Even though the fruit of great Tao in his previous life was out of the ordinary, it really wasn't much after he entered the Yang realm. He definitely couldn't make it through the most powerful divine king tribulation. After Chu Feng entered the stone jar and sealed the jar's mouth properly, he drove the jar away from that region rapidly. He didn't want to join in on the fun. In a flash, an expanse of lightning descended and almost destroyed Mo. His body fell apart, and his soul light was penetrated. His blood dried up. It was too miserable. The only fortunate thing was that after Chu Feng sealed the jar's mouth, the lightning in the sky disappeared. After the last expanse of lightning fell and pierced through Mo, this place became quiet. However, Mo almost died a miserable death and was now half crippled. Under the most powerful divine king tribulation in history, even he couldn't withstand it. He almost died, and his Tao vanished in such a short time. Chu Feng paid attention to the movements outside at all times. He drove the stone jar back the way he came at the first instance and opened it. Mo sensed something and instantly stared at him. He was so angry that he wanted to bite him to pieces and swallow him alive. Rumble. He stretched out a large hand and grabbed forward. However, Chu Feng wasn't polite at all. He directly stabbed out the heavenly blood star space mother gold sword from the jar without any hesitation. With a puff, blood splashed out from Mo's hand. Mo was shocked and furious. If this was an ordinary day, how could he be injured? He was half crippled now. The strand of blood essence that he had just created was sucked out by that dagger, just like that. It was too hateful. He was furious. The so-called heavenly blood star space mother gold was mixed in with the heavenly blood star space mother gold, so it naturally had magical effects against blood. This actually wasn't scary. The most terrifying thing was that the destructive aura reappeared. He still couldn't avoid it, and it was also unavoidable. Flashes of lightning descended in a dense manner. Chu Feng withdrew the dagger at the first instance and hid his body. But before he closed the lid of the stone jar, he was still tortured to death by the few beams of light that rushed in. He was covered in blood. This was extremely dangerous. It was like a mortal walking and dancing on a tightrope. Luckily, he still sealed the jar tightly at the last moment and concealed the mysteries of heaven. As for Mo, he was even more miserable this time. He couldn't withstand it, and his spine was broken by the most powerful divine king tribulation in history. The flashes of lightning shattered him. Even his soul light was smashed into pieces. And all of this wasn't over yet. Mole's vision turned black, and he was filled with grief and indignation. He was going to die, but this kind of death was too unjust. In the distance, a group of people exclaimed in admiration. They were filled with reverence towards the heavenly tribulation here. The foreign desolate race is indeed a high and mighty race. This divine king tribulation is terrifying. Shi Huang was even more moved. He wasn't stingy with his praise. Divine King Mole is truly stunning. He is a king among men and an overlord among heroes. He will rise today. The others also nodded. This heavenly tribulation couldn't be faked. It was indeed universally shocking. It was even more terrifying than the super divine king tribulation recorded in history books. Chapter 11:37. The eyes of the evolvers on the scene flickered. They felt that such a powerful divine king tribulation was enough to explain everything. Mole was too powerful. Only a top expert of certain realm could attract a major heavenly tribulation that was on par with the historical records. Was Mole going to be bestowed the title of king in this battle, fighting against a major heavenly tribulation? As long as he could endure it, he would be the strongest divine king of this era. Some people were looking forward to it, while others were fearful. There were also many with blazing eyes, waiting for the result. They wanted to witness divine King Mo's peerless glory. Shi Huang's eyes were very fervent. Even though he messed things up at the beginning and didn't expect Mo Feng to be defeated and captured alive by Chu Feng, now he felt that he had done the right thing. Drawing Mo here, allowing him to comprehend for some reason and suddenly trigger a major heavenly tribulation. This might be Shi Huang's contribution, and there would be benefits in the future, because not everyone could transcend a heavenly tribulation just because they wanted to. In the sky-piercing waterfall, only by suddenly comprehending a shocking secret chapter or comprehending a supreme law of heaven and earth at the same level could this happen. Brother Shi, you have done a great service. After divine King Mo transcends the tribulation, he will most likely thank you. Someone congratulated with a smile, but there was envy and jealousy in the depths of his eyes. Well said. Let us first pray that Brother Mo transcends the tribulation successfully. Please don't let anything happen. Shi Huang smiled. He was really a little afraid. Someone said, he will definitely be fine. This is a human from a foreign desolate land. He has made ample preparations. As long as he attracts a heavenly tribulation with his own strength, he will most likely be able to transcend it safely. That's true. The heavenly tribulation corresponds to one's own strength. He has the ability to trigger it. As a member of the strongest foreign desolate land, he will naturally be able to transcend it safely. The others also agreed. They were very jealous. Looking at the terrifying lightning and the blazing thunder drowning that area, their hearts were in turmoil. Many people were thinking that a supreme divine king had risen today. A major heavenly tribulation of this level could guarantee that his strength would be unparalleled among the kings. If nothing unexpected happened, he would be ranked first on the divine king list. Do you think divine King Mo will use this opportunity to break into the Empyrean domain? This isn't quite possible. He's still young, and he hasn't accumulated enough time. It's impossible for him to be that fast. Someone shook his head. There were also people who were moved and said, everything is possible. Perhaps today will really create the first young Empyrean in history. Shi Huang said, everyone, you must believe in miracles. The glory that will be recorded in the history books is reserved for peerless geniuses and future peerless rulers. His words did not need to be said. What he wanted to express and what he was looking forward to was too obvious. He wanted to tie himself to the foreign desolate race's Mo family. The blood waterfall was extremely special originally able to isolate everything, but they could still see a few blazing electrical radiance flickering about. It was all because the great heavenly tribulation was too powerful. In reality, the main character, Emole, was incomparably miserable. His body was shattered and his soul light was pierced through. His throat was pierced by lightning, and his spine was cleaved apart. He was experiencing a death tribulation. What terrified him the most was that the death substitute talisman hidden in his body was directly torn into pieces. Under the continuous great lightning, it was destroyed before it could play its proper role. The so-called death substitute talisman had a fatal weakness. Once some kind of energy was too high, it could be directly covered and attacked. It could directly destroy the death substitute talisman, and the host would most likely die. As a matter of fact, when someone killed a descendant of a super clan, they would usually first search for the death substitute talisman hidden in a piece of flesh and destroy it first. Otherwise, even if they were beheaded with a single sword strike, the other party might still come back to life. Emole wanted to roar, but his throat was pierced and his soul light was shattered. He fell into the most hopeless situation. It wasn't that he wasn't strong, but the great heavenly tribulation was just too terrifying. It poured down in torrents, and each streak was enough to pierce through him. How was he supposed to resist? As a matter of fact, let alone him, even a few top-ranked divine kings would bleed and be severely injured. The difference was only a matter of time. Otherwise, how could it be the world's strongest divine king tribulation? This was the complete laws of heaven and earth that had sensed it and directly descended. Emole disintegrated and turned into a pile of blood and bones, as well as withered skin and flesh, which scattered everywhere. The lightning in the sky finally disappeared, but it was obvious that the lightning this time lasted longer than before. After Chu Feng fastened the lid of the jar, it still continued for a while. The main reason was that there seemed to be some kind of existence in the unseen world that felt like it was being provoked. It incited it again and again, causing the strongest lightning to strike down. This time, it was a response to the provocation. After the sound of thunder disappeared, Chu Feng came again at the first instance. He controlled the jar and revealed a crack to investigate the situation outside. Was Emole dead? Chu Feng felt that Emole didn't have any signs of life anymore. He was hacked into a skeleton, and his withered skin was very frightening. But he didn't hesitate. He still displayed his previous life's Tao fruit at the first instance and triggered the lightning to descend again. Glaring lightning poured down in torrents like the Milky Way falling from the ninth heaven. Chu Feng twitched and growled in a low voice. Half of his body was covered in lightning, and blood splattered everywhere as he sealed the jar's mouth with difficulty. As for the donkey spirit, he had long since been stuffed under the reincarnation soil by Chu Feng and had actually effectively avoided a disaster of death. The old man was no exception. He was buried deep under the reincarnation soil. This thing innately restrained the old man and caused all of his senses to fail. Even now, he still didn't know what was happening in the outside world. It's too dangerous. This is dancing in the midst of destruction with my own life. Although it's a trump card, I really can't use it casually. I'll easily lose my life. Chu Feng felt a wave of guilt. He lay in the stone jar and resisted the remaining lightning that was flickering intensely in his body. His body was covered in terrifying wounds and blood was gushing out. He was so weak after just being brushed by the lightning. One could imagine how terrifying the main character, Emole, had been through. It was as if he had been tormented by purgatory thousands of times. Not long ago, Emole was indeed still alive and hadn't died. However, his injuries were extremely severe, and his soul light was almost scattered. He couldn't escape for a while. What made him furious and despair was that when he was on the verge of death, that wild cultivator came again and very wretchedly summoned the most powerful divine, King Tribulation, for the third time. He was in complete despair. He had no way to escape. So how was he supposed to endure? As expected, Emole was done for. His damaged body began to explode further in the lightning. His withered flesh and old skin turned into flying ashes as he walked towards death. Even the rare treasures of the old ancestor of his race refined for him using innate objects were disintegrated. After that, they exploded and turned into fine powder. This time, the great heavenly tribulation lasted a little longer. It was provoked time and time again. It was as if the heavens were infuriated and wouldn't stop until the life forms below were destroyed. Mo died. His soul light was scattered, so he really didn't have the slightest chance of survival. His soul was completely extinguished. Even if someone gave him a talisman that he brought out from some forbidden region, he still wouldn't be able to reincarnate. An extremely powerful divine king had disappeared, and Mo had died tragically. Chu Feng came out. His whole body was covered in reincarnation soil, and he used energy to absorb it on the surface of his body to isolate himself from the outside world. He was here to inspect the results. Mo died very peacefully. I think his family members are also very strong. I don't know if they will cry or not. In any case, I'm smiling. Rest in peace. Chu Feng put on an act and paid his respects. He was sure that Mo had really died and there wasn't any remnant soul left behind. Otherwise, this person should have come out and fought him to the death. Whoosh! Chu Feng entered the stone jar and closed the lid, leaving only a small crack. Then, he rushed against the waterfall and avoided many special regions. He was completely silent. The small jar passed everyone in the waterfall that was like the 9 heavens hanging from the sky as he advanced towards the sky. That was because he knew something big was about to happen. It was safer to hide in the waterfall that connected to the sky. This place isolated divine senses and other things. If he rushed out rashly, he might be discovered and killed. First, Mo died. After that, another divine king died. That was an alien race. How could they give up? Most likely, this race was going crazy. The alien race had a powerful bloodline, but their population had always been small. Such direct descendants were definitely treasured. Now that 2 of them had died, their parents would definitely come to kill them. Indeed, when Mo Feng's soul lamp was extinguished, the alien race was in chaos. They immediately sent experts out of the clan, wanting to kill people. No matter who it is, no matter what the reason is, regardless of whether my Feng is in the wrong or not, all of you have to pay the price. Those with the Killer King's bloodline must die. In that ancient land, a heaven-shaking roar of anger rang out. Aren't their elders following them? Contact them. What are they doing? They are already dead, yet they are so stupid that they didn't sense anything. Not long after the experts of the Mo clan erupted, the palace hall where their soul lamps were stored trembled violently. Another important lamp in the soul hall was extinguished. That was a divine king-level lamp. What? Layer also died? The Mo clan was in chaos. Some old men were alarmed. They walked out of their caves and woke up from the coffins in the underground palace. Their expressions were grave. Who was it that was targeting the alien race? In front of the sky-piercing waterfall, the elder who was waiting here immediately received news from the clan. His face instantly turned pale. He crazily tossed out banner after banner, sealing the sky and locking down this place. Naturally, when he received the news, Mo Feng had only died. He didn't know that Mo had also been killed. There was a short time difference. In reality, the great heavenly tribulation vanished, and Mo had just died. The sky-piercing waterfall was very mysterious. It could even isolate the sound of the heavenly tribulation, reducing it to the lowest level. The outside world could only hear muffled rumbles of thunder, but it didn't feel very grand. Within the sky-piercing waterfall, after the great heavenly tribulation vanished, a group of people couldn't hold themselves back. For example, Shi Huang and the others all approached and walked over. In fact, even Kong couldn't hold himself back. The girl who looked like Linoy was also very astonished. As for the Rock Emperor, the Peacock King, and the Hung clan's divine monarchs, they were also alarmed and appeared in the end. Shi Huang said, "It seems that God King Mo Lei succeeded in his tribulation. This is similar to the records. The stronger the heavenly tribulation, the shorter and faster it is. Now that 3 waves have passed, it should have stopped." He was the most lively. He approached with a respectful expression and said respectfully, "God King Mo, can I approach?" "Dao friend Mo, how are you?" The other divine monarchs didn't have such misgivings and asked like this. Almost instantly, someone appeared on the spot. Shi Huang also came over with the other divine monarchs. The others also arrived quickly. "This is bone residue?" Shi Huang was shocked. What did he see? Between the destroyed cliffs, there were some black bone fragments, as well as some broken bone dregs. No matter how he looked at it, it looked like he had encountered heavenly lightning. His body had been split into pieces, and these bone fragments had splashed out and stabbed into the cliff. With a wung sound, Shi Huang almost fainted. His vision turned dark, and he fell limp on the spot. He knew that he had provoked a huge disaster. Something big was going to happen. This wasn't only a disaster for him, but also a huge problem for the Shi family. He lured the Mo brothers here, but in the end, one was captured alive, and the other was suspected to have been struck to death by lightning. This was a huge disaster. Shi Huang saw stars, and his ears were ringing. He was paralyzed there, unable to move. The others were also stupefied. After that, they felt a chill run down their spines. Mo Lei's death was also a type of shock to them. Mo Lei, the Mo family's elder, roared. He charged in like a deranged person. What did he see? Broken bones, shattered dregs, and a miserable ending. How could my Mo family's young divine monarch die? This elder howled. He picked up the shattered bones, and his eyes were red. "It has nothing to do with me. It's G-Dade." Shi Huang's eyes were lifeless. Then, he fainted from fright. Very soon, the Mo family's people arrived. Mo Lei's parents, grandfather, and the others all killed their way over as soon as possible. They descended on the heavenly waterfall. When the matter is done, leave with a brush of the robe, hiding his achievements and fame. In the sky, Chu Feng was acting cockily. He hid in the stone jar and rushed upwards. If this continued, he would definitely enter outer space. What is that? Chu Feng was shocked. A rotting corpse rushed down from the waterfall. The jar wasn't completely fastened, and there was still a gap left. He could clearly see what was inside. That corpse was severely damaged. There was less than a third of it left. In particular, it was already completely rotten without the slightest bit of vitality. Chu Feng vaguely saw that the corpse's widened, rotting eyes seemed to move a bit. He directly fastened the lid tightly. He inwardly rejoiced that there was still a layer of reincarnation earth on his body. He was completely isolated from the outside world and wouldn't be sensed by other creatures. That rotting corpse rushed past and headed downwards into the distance. This can't be that something big is going to happen. If there's a special terrifying creature seizing a body in the heavenly waterfall, there will definitely be a bloodbath and a great panic in the Yang realm. Chu Feng was suspicious. He was really afraid that this kind of thing would happen. Chapter 1138. Chu Feng was still rising. At this time, there were no cliffs and precipices, so he didn't know how high he was from the ground. At this moment, he discovered with great astonishment that he had entered a special region. The waterfall was like a vast ocean and was rippling in the sky. The most important thing was that there were actually many giant rocks floating in the water. They remained unmoved despite the waterfall's impact. They were like stars in the sky, arranged irregularly. Don't tell me I've entered the outer realm? Is this a meteor region? He was puzzled, but he felt that it shouldn't be to the extent. He shouldn't have reached the outer realm yet. At the thought of this, he stopped here and activated the stone jar to descend onto a giant rock. He observed it for a long time before truly opening the stone jar and dragging the old man out from the reincarnation earth. "I'm dying of suffocation. You actually have so much soul flesh. Heavens, this world is too unfair. Where did you collect it?" The old eccentric cried out. The palm-sized coffin glowed, and a red mist of blood pervaded the air. He was trying his best to sense everything within the stone jar. His elder brother had searched for so many years without finding any traces of soul flesh. Today, he actually saw so many. However, Chu Feng closed the lid after dragging the Manchurian tiger out from the reincarnation earth. Old Gu, take a look at the situation. Why are there so many giant rocks floating in the waterfall? These should be evil blocking stones left behind from prehistoric times. But it seems they've all been abandoned, the old man informed. Endless years ago, there were some horrifying tragedies. An ineffable evil spirit emerged from the waterfall and successfully seized the body. It bathed the earth in blood and brought great disasters to all races. Even now, there were still evil spirits hiding in the forbidden areas. No one dared to kill them. That was also the reason why all the races had worked together to set up arrangements here. They hoped to block the evil spirits or at least set up some things in advance. But now, it seemed the effects weren't obvious. This area had already been abandoned. Chu Feng nodded after observing and said, "Oh, there are magnetic stones and special materials. It really is a destroyed domain. It's in a complete mess and isn't recognizable anymore." Then, he recalled a rotten corpse he had just seen and said, "I saw a mutilated corpse just now. Its eyeballs seemed to have moved a bit and rushed down." "Ah, you can actually see this kind of thing?" Old Gu was shocked. "Evil spirit, will the people below be massacred?" The Manchurian tiger whispered. After listening for a long time, he naturally knew the seriousness of the problem. Old Gu said, "It is quite possible. If you encounter a vicious one who successfully takes over the body, moreover possessing heaven-defying strength, there will definitely be a great disaster. Blood will definitely overflow into the heavens." "What if it's not cruel?" Manchurian tiger asked. "It's even more troublesome. Back then, there was an evil spirit that had endured for many years and established a super-organization. Then, it went to destroy an ancient clan that was ranked 10th in the Yang realm. Only then did people discover that it was actually an evil spirit. When Chu Feng heard this, he felt a chill run down his spine. This evil spirit was indeed terrifying. Annihilating an ancient clan ranked 10th was completely different from killing a portion of the clan's powerhouses. There was no need to even think about it. If all the experts of the prehistoric 10th aristocratic family were to be mobilized, it would be an unimaginable combat strength that was sufficient to cause a great earthquake in the Yang realm. However, that clan was still exterminated, massacred by an evil spirit. "What about that evil spirit?" Manchurian tiger asked. "He ran into a certain forbidden area. Moreover, he would appear from time to time in certain eras and become one of the greatest threats in the Yang realm." This caused Chu Feng to be astonished. That evil spirit didn't die and was still alive. Chu Feng said, "Is there no one who can eliminate him? The Hung race and the Buddhist race shouldn't allow such a creature to exist. No matter what the reason is, all the races should join hands to eliminate him. We can't encourage this kind of cruel and vile atmosphere." Why didn't he make a move? But he ran very quickly. The most serious time was when all the races were about to attack that forbidden area, but he still escaped. "Really?" Chu Feng shook his head and said, "Your big brother didn't make a move?" "He did. As far as I know, he sneaked into a certain forbidden area and secretly released a dark karmic fire. He burned a small part of the forbidden area and stole many heavenly treasures. His harvest was huge." Chu Feng was speechless. This prehistoric evil hand style was indeed the same as before. Does anyone else know? Some people guessed that he did it. Even the existence in the forbidden area was angry, but how could my big brother admit to it? He was forced into a corner and ran outside the forbidden area to secretly release a fire. In the end, the entire world became quiet. Chu Feng was speechless. Of course, in prehistoric times, the old man wouldn't say these things even if he was beaten to death. Otherwise, it would cause great trouble. But now that his big brother was dead, there was no harm in saying it. Will there be a calamity below the bloody waterfall in a while? The Manchurian tiger was very worried and shocked. After all, a corpse had appeared. After so many years, the evil spirit would most likely appear again. Who cares? In any case, we're all alone. We're currently outside the maelstrom and hide here. There's no need to pay attention to it, the old man said. Will another evil spirit appear? The Manchurian tiger felt guilty and asked in a low voice. The old man said, in theory, it shouldn't. Evil spirits usually appear at the same time and rush over in groups. Chu Feng relaxed after hearing this. He sat cross-legged on the boulder and didn't want to go anywhere. He felt that it was safer to wait here. Suddenly, he discovered that the old man was releasing a bloody mist and wanted to explore his stone jar. What are you peeking at? If you dare to move, I'll suppress you in your soul for hundreds of millions of years, never to reincarnate. Chu Feng threatened. Hurry up and go into seclusion. It's already the middle of the night. The fortune in the blood waterfall will disappear at daybreak. After hearing these words, the old man became alert and hurried to comprehend the Tao. The Manchurian tiger did the same. As for Chu Feng, he held the wooden spear in his hand and began to comprehend again. Many runes appeared in the bloody waterfall and surged over. Rumble. Before daybreak, when the sky was about to brighten, a muffled sound came from above the waterfall. It was like an earthquake, and the deafening sound of the blood waterfall was slightly suppressed. What was going on? Chu Feng was the first to wake up. He opened the lid of the stone jar and prepared to hide. Not good. This is the evil blocking stone's warning. The arrangements made in the past are still useful. Something extraordinary has happened. It's likely that an evil spirit has appeared. The old man was alarmed. Chu Feng didn't say anything. He picked up the Manchurian tiger and stuffed him into the stone jar. Then he buried the sky gold sarcophagus under the reincarnation soil. As for himself, he naturally entered the stone jar at the first moment. His body was covered in reincarnation soil, and this area became completely quiet. Before long, a broken golden war chariot appeared. It smashed through boulder after boulder and rushed through the waterfall, heading downstream. Chu Feng was astonished. He caught a glimpse of a figure through a small crack in the stone jar. It was a woman of exceptional beauty. Her battle clothes were stained with blood, and she was lying on her side in the golden war chariot. She was still alive. This was because Chu Feng saw that she had actually sat up when the war chariot passed through this area. As soon as she moved slightly, all sorts of huge rocks in this area exploded and turned into fine powder. Moreover, this sky-piercing waterfall was actually cut off for a short period of time. A terrifying aura filled the air like a broken dam in the sea of stars, and then it exploded. Chu Feng was convinced that if it weren't for the stone jar's protection and concealing his aura, he would have met with a great calamity. An unprecedented evil spirit, a living being with an intact physical body, had driven a war chariot through the sky-piercing waterfall and descended into the world of the living. Chu Feng's scalp went numb. Was a great calamity about to befall him? There was no need to think too much. An evil spirit with a physical body was several times more terrifying than one that had seized another's body. This place calmed down. It wasn't until a long time had passed and the sky was bright that Chu Feng released the old man and the Manchurian tiger. Brat, what did you see? A living evil spirit with an intact physical body drove a war chariot through and descended into the world of the living. Chapter 1139. Why not? I saw it with my own eyes. A female driver drove a golden chariot and whizzed past. Although she was an outstanding beauty with an outstanding temperament, it was obvious that she wasn't someone to be trifled with. She must be a great evil spirit. From Chu Feng's point of view, that great evil spirit wasn't ugly at all. On the contrary, its body didn't decay and it was peerless in style. It didn't match the description of evil spirits at all. A female driver? Old Gu had a dumbfounded look. A female driver who drove a golden chariot? The Manchurian tiger's mouth twitched. It was chaos under the sky-reaching waterfall. It was already past dawn, and the sky was bright. 3 batches of people from the Mo family had arrived, and each batch had a higher status than the last. In the end, even the veteran peak, celestial venerables had arrived. The main reason was that the Mo family had too few pure-blooded clansmen. The death of even one was heartbreaking. Today, the Patriarch's faction had lost two core geniuses, which caused the clan to be furious. They believed that someone was targeting the Mo family, and that it might have involved a rival clan of the same level. This was a big matter. The youth with the heavenly blood star space source gold dagger is called G-Dade. Who is he? Mole's father was shocked and angry. He looked like he was in his 40s. His red hair was loose, and a terrifying aura filled the air. Especially between his eyebrows, there was a terrifying vertical eye. This was a mature, all-seeing eye. With this eye, when certain conditions were met, one could control the opponent's life or death during a duel. He could kill someone with a single thought, making all the clans fearful. Of course, the most famous thing was that he could steal all the secret manuals in the world. With a single all-seeing eye, he could see through all the secrets of his opponent. Therefore, whether it was the Hung clan, which claimed to be #1 in the world, or the Buddhist clan, which still had a living Buddha, they were all quite afraid of this bloodline. Could G-Dade be a member of the G clan, one of the top 5 clans? Mole's father, Mo Chung, asked with an ugly expression. The G clan was a clan that could stand shoulder to shoulder with the Hung clan, the Li clan, and the Buddhist clan. They were glorious and powerful and had a frighteningly long history. No one knew their roots. Although the alien desolate race was a transcendent race, having broken away from the strongest races and established their own race, they still had a headache dealing with colossal races like the Hung race and the G family. No, he's just a loose cultivator. He has no connection with the G family. Also, this matter might not have been done by G-Dade. Someone reported, "What's going on?" Mole's father, Mo Chung, suppressed his anger and revealed a shocked expression. Once they investigated the scene, they were certain that Wind Void's death was related to the young rogue cultivator. As for Mole, he died from a heavenly tribulation, and it was even more powerful than the heavenly tribulation that had been passed through in the history books. This was extremely strange. One had to bear in mind that even though Mole was strong, his clansmen knew what they were capable of. He still couldn't compare to the great figures in the history books, so he shouldn't have triggered the most powerful heavenly tribulation. It was a bit strange. The Shi clanspeople were brought over. Shi Huang's face was ashen and his eyes were lifeless. He was scared silly. Shi Huang said, "I also heard someone shout it. That was G-Dade. Oh right, it was Wu Chung who shouted it. He's a disciple of the great martial heavenly lord. If there are no accidents, it should actually be Long Dayu, a strange dragon." At this moment, another youth spoke. He was a participant in the dragon nest at the border. The former Go Hua, who was now Wu Chung, was quickly brought over. He said, "Back then, I found a celestial bloodstar mother golden sword in the dragon nest, but it was snatched away. He had always felt that the dragon egg that ambushed him was strange. He believed that it was actually G-Dade. This was completely based on a kind of intuition. However, everyone else thought that it was that strange dragon and Long Dayu's doing. Because back then, everyone in the dragon nest saw clearly that it was the creature inside the dragon egg that snatched the celestial bloodstar mother golden sword. Reward for Long Dayu. My Mo clan will reward whoever can capture him generously. Breathing scriptures, worldly wondrous techniques, treasured weapons, all of them can be used as rewards. The Mo clan listed several breathing techniques in one breath. They were all famous techniques that had disappeared in history, yet they were actually collected by them. In addition, there were wondrous techniques, weapons, and so on. They were all rare treasures. Unknowingly, that strange dragon, Long Dayu, had once again taken the blame for Chu Feng. A Chu, in the great wilderness, in a certain cave residence with lingering immortal aura, Long Dayu was leading a few young dragons in excavating a secret realm to obtain great fortunes. At this time, he felt uncomfortable all over and sneezed a few times in succession. "Who's cursing me?" he muttered. Finally, he cursed and said, "I've already started all over again. Who can do anything to me?" Even if I walk out boldly, what can I do? No enemy will recognize me. He was no longer worried. A smile appeared on his face, and he looked very treacherous. However, if he knew that he had taken the blame for G-Date again, he would definitely stomp his feet in anger. In front of the sky-reaching waterfall, the MO clan searched in every possible way. They first wanted to capture Long Diyu, and then they also issued a reward for G-Date. They also wanted to question him. Although only Go Wa and Wu Cheng said that it might be G-Dade and the others didn't agree, the MO clan would rather kill the wrong person than let him go. The waterfall had already become clear and sparkling. Then, it was filled with brilliant splendor. After one night, it was no longer a bloody waterfall. No, something's wrong. There's something here. Right at this time, an old celestial at the peak of the MO clan shouted. The all-seeing eye between his brows opened. It was extremely terrifying, able to see through everything. He had a feeling that someone was spying on this place. There's an evil spirit. At this time, the stone Buddha suddenly shouted. There was an emerald green Bodhi branch inserted in the alms bowl in his hand. It suddenly shone, green and lush, and then jade light rushed into the heavens. In reality, the other experts also sensed it. They took action together. Hung Long. They attacked towards the waterfall together. In the end, a damaged body flew out. Its entire body shone, and it was actually very holy. Millions and millions of strands of immortal light and endless white mist surged here. This was a rotting corpse. It pounced out from the air, releasing astonishing energy. This made everyone here emotionally moved. They were all alarmed. There was actually an evil spirit with a physical body that flew out. In the past, it was only seizing bodies. Today, it was completely different. They realized that this was extremely terrifying. A single mistake would provoke a great disaster. Dao friends, join hands and kill him. Do not let him go. The evil spirit that just came out from the sky reaching immortal waterfall is the weakest. Once he is given time, he might not be able to be restrained in the future. Someone shouted. In reality, there was no need for him to say any more. All of the big names knew the severity of this problem. They all took action without holding back. After that evil spirit was attacked by the stone Buddha, Hao Yuan, and the others, it erupted with world-shaking immortal light. However, it still exploded in the end, triggering blood and chaos. Retreat. Everyone cried out loudly. The disciples who were protecting themselves immediately retreated. This area was covered in immortal light, white mist, and other things. As for the sky-reaching immortal waterfall, it broke apart and then fell again, creating a vast expanse of whiteness. In that instant, heaven and earth were overturned. Immortal light surged. White mist surged, turning this place into a land of destruction. All types of natural laws interweaved within, great Tao symbols concentrated. During this process, above the sky-reaching immortal waterfall, there was a damaged golden war chariot. Inside sat a woman, her style unmatched, calm, and unperturbed. In reality, that ruined corpse was struck out by her, not something that flew out herself. At this time, when the outside world was in chaos, immortal mist and destructive energy radiance covering everything, she decisively moved. She drove the war chariot straight down, entering the deep pool below. Then, she rushed into the Yang realm's underground ancestral vein. She stealthily avoided these experts and didn't take action here. When the area outside the sky-reaching waterfall calmed down, the experts from all sides were on high alert, pressing forward. Unfortunately, the large-scale warning domain upstream of the waterfall has long been destroyed. Otherwise, once there is an abnormality, there would be a heavenly bell ringing, warning ahead of time. Someone said with a frown, "Fellow Tao friends, hurry and look, this evil spirit's body has been split into pieces and is rotting. There isn't the slightest bit of soul fluctuation. Was it completely killed by us, or did he successfully seize the body?" The atmosphere here immediately became tense. Many people fell back. Only a few heavenly deities walked forward, carefully observing and examining the results. That ruined corpse was beaten into several dozen pieces, splitting up here. It was a bit terrifying. Not only did his entire body begin to rot, but his flesh and bones also became pitch black like ink. A rotting smell wafted out, carrying with it dark light. Be careful, fellow Tao friends, seal him together. Not bad. This is a rare, evil spirit with a physical body. It's worth researching. Don't be afraid. The predecessors have researched that after evil spirits enter our world, they will be corroded by a certain substance in our yang realm. Their bodies will rot and turn black. This is the most normal thing. From a certain perspective, our world will take the initiative to kill them. Correct. It's because their spirits are very special and can be preserved, so they choose to seize the body. In that case, there is a problem with the energy attribute of the world the evil spirit came from. It conflicts with our world, so their bodies will rot and they are destined to be destroyed. It was a pity that this ruined corpse carried a great blame and became a pathfinder. Underground, that exceptionally beautiful woman drove the golden chariot into the distance, but her speed became slower and slower. Her body surged with immortal light, but it continuously dimmed and was being corroded intensely. Her speed underground became slower and slower. Above the sky-reaching waterfall, Chu Feng was listening to the old man talk about all kinds of secrets regarding evil spirits. Among them, there was a certain kind of speculation. During this process, the old man even mentioned that if the evil spirit came over with a physical body, it would be difficult for them to move an inch in this world, and they might be destroyed in the end. What are you still waiting for? Let's go capture that great evil spirit. Chu Feng waved his arm. The old man said, "My big brother deduced that the evil spirit's location is very terrifying. It's not an area connected to another branch path of evolution in history. It's Chapter 1140. The history of evolution was terrifying and very long. In this endless ancient history, nodes appeared one after another, causing evolution to move in different directions. Along the way, too many strange and terrifying things happened. If the entire evolutionary history was thoroughly investigated, if all of the fulcrums were revealed, then it would truly be sinister, full of blood and chaos. There were even some unknown sources of terror that would leave the endless heavens shaken. The location of the so-called evil spirit might also be the location of the battle between the Yang realm and the immortals. The old man's expression was solemn. This was an inference, a deduction made by his elder brother. The Yang realm believed that they had won the battle against the immortals and defeated them. However, there were also some people who believed that the Yang realm had lost and had no choice but to cut off the front line of the battle with the immortals, isolating the battlefield in a special space-time. Under the sky-high waterfall, a group of people sealed the evil spirit's remains and divided them equally among the various clans for research. The appearance of this kind of creature had shocking research value that shocked the various clans in the Yang realm. The path of evolution required such an individual as experimental material. For this kind of evil spirit to grow to such an extent, its evolution naturally had its own unique characteristics. For some clans that grasped the ultimate scriptures, their dying ancestors would certainly be incomparably thirsty for such outer realm corpses. Not bad. It's really a great harvest. After a simple exploration just now, I've already sensed that there are mysterious energy runes left in the rotten body of this evil spirit. It's quite different from the ones in the Yang realm and is worth learning from. Good fortune. The harvest this time isn't small. An old celestial laughed heartily. Hung Tuo, Sure Fo, and Hao Yuan were all very satisfied. Only the Mo family members had gloomy expressions. They were very dissatisfied with the death of two of their direct descendants. Were Long Dayu and that damned G-Day dead or not? Logically speaking, Mo Lei failed his tribulation and died tragically here. Those related to him shouldn't have survived either. Dig a kilometer into this area and search thoroughly. That damn Long Dayu. The Mo family hated Long Dayu to death. Even if Mo Lei's death had nothing to do with him, Mo Feng's death was definitely related to him. They couldn't wait to capture that strange dragon. For a moment, Shi Huang's expression was ashen, and he didn't dare to breathe. The Mo family found a few youths who participated in the desolate border dragon nest battle and had them sketch out the strange dragon's shape and other things, preparing to issue a wanted order throughout the world. As for Jidade, he was just casually caught by the bounty, and the bounty couldn't be compared to Long Dayu's. For several days in a row, this region was not peaceful. Mo family's troops were everywhere, all of them clans that were attached to them. They were all searching for Long Dayu. In addition, the other powerful races had also come to search for the evil spirits. The appearance of the evil spirit and its physical body made all the clans feel uneasy. The great army surrounded this place, and all those who came here the earliest were restricted. They were all being strictly examined out of fear that their bodies would be seized. If they were allowed to leave, then it would be a great disaster. 5 days later, it was still not peaceful outside the waterfall. It was still noisy, and there were people who entered the waterfall to search. At this moment, Chu Feng had already quietly descended and entered the deep pool along the waterfall. The main thing was that he had the protection of the stone jar. He blended in with the waterfall that was as vast as the sea, and no one noticed him. The so-called experts did not sense the stone jar at all. Chu Feng entered the underground ancestral vein and didn't pay any attention to the matters outside the waterfall. He wanted to escape. I'll kill a person in 10 steps and leave no trace for 1,000 miles. Chu Feng was immensely proud of himself. He had escaped that region and broken free from the tense situation. Old Gu curled his lips and said, "Forget it. You're running away. How many people have you killed? You're still boasting shamelessly. That day is not far away. When I kill a divine king in 10 steps and a celestial venerable in 100 steps, the world will chant my name and the land of reincarnation will erect my divine statue." Cocky, they rushed into the vein. It was too grand. The ancestral vein of the Yang realm was majestic and majestic. At first, it looked like an abyss, but then Chu Feng was overwhelmed with shock. Its shape was actually like the crater of a volcano that reached underground. And all of this was the node of the underground ancestral vein that guided the essence of the waterfall, turning it into essence energy underground and distributing it to various places in the Yang realm. As for what Chu Feng had said earlier about capturing the great evil spirit, he was just thinking about it. He wouldn't do it at all. Even if that woman would rot, it was too dangerous and not worth doing. Moreover, from Chu Feng's point of view, that woman had most likely killed her way out of the waterfall and fought with the people of the Yang realm after such a long time had passed. No matter what, it wouldn't be his turn to pick up the scraps. Even in the vein, they hid in the stone jar and covered their bodies with reincarnation soil. Chu Feng drove the stone jar and fled. With the stone jar and reincarnation soil, they could at least isolate everything. Relatively speaking, the safety factor was very high. This was also the basis for Chu Feng's daring escape at this time. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Chu Feng drove the stone jar and fled. Not long after, his spirit trembled as he felt something was wrong. There was a faint black light blooming in front of him. In the distance, Chu Feng saw a damaged black chariot with a corpse lying in it. It looked quite demonic. "A female driver?" asked the Manchurian tiger. "It doesn't look like it. Why is it black?" Chu Feng was suspicious. Here, he felt a vast life energy rapidly fading away and on the verge of dissipating. After carefully sensing it, he found that the corpse had long since become cold. It had been dead for several days. The last remaining breath of life in the vicinity had also dissipated. "Old Gu, is there any way to investigate whether there are evil spirits nearby? It's a bit strange. Don't tell me the spirit is still there after the physical body died?" "Not likely. The evil spirit's physical body can't be kept in the Yang realm. Its spirit will immediately escape to seize another body. It won't linger in one place. After hearing this, Chu Feng drove the stone jar to carefully explore and observe carefully. Then, he decisively rushed over. That was because he felt that he had inadvertently entered this place. If there was still the spirit of the evil spirit, it should have already discovered such a moving jar. No matter how cautious he was, it was useless. This wasn't the waterfall area where there were huge waves to hide. The underground was extremely spacious. When they approached, Chu Feng's entire body was covered in reincarnation soil. He drilled out of the jar and stood there. Even so, he was still horrified. His whole body felt as if it had been pierced by steel needles and was in unbearable pain. This was caused by the aura naturally emitted by the black corpse. Chu Feng was overwhelmed with shock. Without the reincarnation soil, he definitely wouldn't have been able to reach this place. His physical body would have long since exploded and been suppressed to death by a corpse. He stared at the broken chariot. It should be that golden chariot, but after entering the Yang realm, it had become jet black after being corroded by a special substance. In addition, the woman had already become an ice-cold corpse. She was completely motionless and was about to completely rot. Brother, you really have a heavy taste. This is the exceptionally beautiful woman you were talking about. She's a black beauty, the Manchurian tiger sighed. This woman's body and facial contours were truly beautiful and almost dreamlike. However, she was too black. Especially before her skin was rotting, it was so black that it was shining. What do you know? This is a black pearl. Old Gu laughed. Chu Feng kicked the two of them. He felt a wave of sorrow. Not long ago, he saw this woman as an outstanding beauty. She was as beautiful as a fairy walking out of a painting, and at the same time possessed an astonishing aura. In the end, she was almost rotting in just a few days. Old Gu said, "Quickly check her. She should have some good things on her body. Other people fish things out from the immortal waterfall, but will directly plunder the evil spirit's body. Our harvest will definitely be even more astonishing." That's exactly what I was thinking. Chu Feng nodded. At that moment, his eyes were incomparably fiery. He took out the wooden spear and used it to lift up the woman's clothes to search carefully. With a ding sound, the wooden spear stabbed into a hard object on her chest. It was a very special pendant hanging on her chest. It's actually a mother gold chain. The Manchurian tiger was astonished. This pendant hung on her neck through a mother gold chain and hung down to her chest. Dark mother gold. Old Gu inhaled a breath of cold air. This kind of mother gold was extremely rare and rarely seen in the Yang realm. It was rumored that it was only produced in dark places such as Hades and the Yin realm. The mother gold chain was terrifyingly black and carried a gloomy and cold aura. Meanwhile, the pendant was also black like a piece of stone. It was carved into an inch square and looked like a small square seal. There were words on it, but even Old Gu couldn't recognize them. Good stuff. Could it really be some kind of precious seal? For example, the authentic heaven overturning seal or immortal subduing seal. Chu Feng decisively used the wooden spear to pick it up and threw it into the reincarnation soil to purify. He really didn't dare to touch it casually now, but he had confidence in the reincarnation soil. He felt that it was specialized in restraining all kinds of evil spirits. This belt isn't bad either. It's refined from a special material. Could it be a precious weapon like the immortal binding rope? Chu Feng was suspicious. He immediately seized the Black Beauty's belt. The Manchurian tiger was momentarily speechless. This was a woman's belt. This brother Chu Feng was so shameless to take it for himself and directly took it off. There's a hairpin on her head. What kind of material is it made of? It's pure white and so hard. It doesn't look bad. I have to take it away and give it to my confidant. At this point, Chu Feng's skin was already incomparably tough. He generously took the hairpin away. The ear stud isn't bad either. It's flowing with precious splendor. Perhaps it's an amazing heavenly treasure. Chu Feng naturally used the wooden spear to pull off the ear stud and threw it into the reincarnation soil. Old Gu was speechless. This guy took off a dead person's jewelry and wanted to give it to his confidant. He was too lacking in morals. Chu Feng continued. I think her clothes aren't bad either. Although I can't tell the material, I think it might be a rare dress or a battle suit. He had smeared the reincarnation soil on his body, isolating all kinds of baleful energy and dangers. Naturally, he wasn't afraid. Brother, don't tell me you want to take off her clothes. Why not? Chu Feng asked. Think about it. What if she's a heavenly venerable or higher existence? Can her clothes be ordinary? Then he decisively took it off. At this time, the Manchurian tiger's hair stood on end. He said, Brother, was it an illusion? Why did it feel like her eyelids moved? Chapter 1141. Chu Feng was very swift and skillful. He untied the dress made of an unknown material and gasped in admiration again and again. This was definitely a good item. The skirt was adorned with many small, sparkling ornaments. They were all heavenly treasures and emitted a pure and holy aura. At the same time, many special patterns appeared on the dress. They were like the stars in the night sky, sparkling and sparkling. They were extremely beautiful. However, the Manchurian tiger was terrified. He felt that his eyes weren't playing tricks on him just now. He felt that the woman's eyelids trembled a bit. Brother, you're really too daring. Let's hurry and run. The Manchurian tiger cried out as he felt a burst of fear. However, Chu Feng was in the midst of searching for treasures on the corpse. The entire dress was about to change owners as he tore off a large part of it. He believed that this was definitely a rare battle armor. During this process, a pair of jet-black long legs, a slender and glossy but dark neck, as well as a beautiful but very black collarbone, and other things naturally entered his eyes. Don't scare yourself. If there was any danger, we would have died a long time ago. You have to believe in my intuition. It'll be fine. Chu Feng said nonchalantly. Brother, it's a great omen. The Manchurian tiger was truly alarmed. He reminded Chu Feng while staring at the woman's eyelids. You beast! You even want to take off the big chest cover? You're truly too evil. Chu Feng criticized the Manchurian tiger, but he quickly changed his tone and said, However, what you said is also reasonable. The big chest cover is definitely a treasure. The Manchurian tiger was truly dumbstruck after hearing this. The old man was also speechless. This brat had the essence of his older brother's shamelessness in the past. Who can you give these things to? The old man asked. After all, it was a dead person's belongings. Chu Feng nimbly took the dress for himself and threw it into the reincarnation soil to purify. He didn't seem to care in the slightest as he said, First of all, you have to admit that this is a heavenly object, a supreme treasure armor. If you're forced into a desperate situation one day, let me ask you, would you be willing to wear an Empyrean battle armor or even an almighty battle armor for defense? You're saving it for me to wear. The old man almost jumped up and bumped into the coffin. Chu Feng curled his lips and said, It's just a metaphor. Don't be unwilling. When the time comes, even if you cry and beg me to wear this dress, I won't necessarily give it to you. Then he stopped paying attention to the two people around him and started sizing up the great evil spirit. She was originally a devastatingly beautiful woman with peerless beauty. But now, the outline of her face was still beautiful, exquisite, and perfect, but her skin was so dark that it was like a fairy of the moon had fallen into a coal mine. Sigh, these long and straight, big black legs, and that slender little buchi, that little black waist. A pair of lotus arms fell into the ink, and her originally bright and sexy red lips have turned purple as if she had eaten a dead child. Her beautiful eyes have turned black, but I really didn't do it. Chu Feng sighed repeatedly. He looked at the slightly exposed corpse and evaluated it. In the end, he sighed again and said, You were originally a beauty, but what could you do to turn dark and die? Brother, it's really a bad omen. The Manchurian tiger's scalp went numb because he had been staring at the woman's eyelids. He felt that he was not mistaken. Just now, he felt that those long eyelashes seemed to tremble again. Brother Hu, you're such a beast. Don't tempt me, okay? You're too direct. I'm embarrassed. You can rob anything, but that kind of thing. Well, I admit that it's a treasure of heaven and earth. I'm tempted. Let me brew. Chu Feng coughed and said, then let's start with the boots. I think this pair of boots is strange. They're densely covered with special runes. It's a treasure. Hey, are these boots made of Qilin skin? The old man was shocked. Chu Feng was even more moved when he heard that. Then he decisively and without hesitation peeled off a pair of delicate and beautiful boots. Upon a closer look, it indeed looked like dragon or Qilin skin. Chu Feng activated a bit of energy and saw some kind of order appear. He was a knowledgeable person. If this pair of boots were to be worn on his feet, he would be able to shrink the ground to inches at the very least. Not bad. He nodded. He definitely had to put them in the treasury. Then he sized up the woman's feet. What a pair of beautiful and petite dark-footed little girls. This kind of evaluation left the old man speechless. At this time, the Manchurian tiger saw the woman's eyelids twitch again. He immediately cried out, something's wrong, brother. You might have angered her. I think I saw her move again. Oh heavens, what's going on? Why can't I be sure if I'm seeing it clearly? This is so strange. Don't be noisy. If she's really alive, do you think we can still run away? Chu Feng waved his hand to stop him from talking nonsense. To be honest, Chu Feng felt that this pair of feet could originally be called delicate and flawless heavenly feet. The toes were sparkling and lustrous, but unfortunately, they were black. He could guess that these feet used to be like suet jade, and the soles of the feet were petite. But now, Chu Feng couldn't help but think, how many years had it been since they were washed? They were excessively black. Good stuff, Chu Feng exclaimed. He naturally wasn't staring at the pair of heavenly feet, but at the ankles. It was like a suet jade ring with a small bell. It was just below the calf near the ankle. It was very beautiful and exquisite. If the pure white calf and jade feet were matched with such an ankle ring, it would indeed be pleasing to the eye. But now, how could Chu Feng appreciate it? He quickly took it off. There's only one ankle ring. I thought it was a pair. Then Chu Feng sized it up again and carefully touched it. He muttered, why isn't there a bracelet or something like that? After a round of exploration, this woman didn't have any spatial bracelets on her. It was empty. The items were really limited. It can't be in her body, right? However, Chu Feng really didn't dare to explore with his spiritual power. He had the reincarnation soil to protect his body, but once he probed with his spiritual power and invaded the great evil spirit's body, he reckoned that there would be a great disaster. He didn't even need to think about it. A corpse alone could annihilate her soul light. Should we rob this big chest cover too? She's already a dead person. If we strip her clean and don't leave any funerary objects for her, it won't make sense, right? Chu Feng consulted Old Gu and the Manchurian tiger's opinion. Old Gu despised him and slapped the coffin a few times. He didn't want to talk to him anymore. Chu Feng said again, it's hard to refuse your kindness. Brother Tiger reminded me several times and insisted that I take it off, take it off, take it all off. I think we should take it away too. The Manchurian tiger immediately rolled his eyes and said, brother, you're shameless to a new level. Don't drag me into this. If you want to rob, just say it. There's nothing to be embarrassed about. We brothers know each other very well. Chu Feng's delicate face revealed an embarrassed expression. He said, the main thing is that I suspect she might be a celestial venerable, an almighty being. Every item on her body is a heavenly treasure. To us, it's a supreme treasure. I can't bear to part with it. For example, if you guys encounter danger in the future, you can wear it. It's a heavenly treasure that can save your life. Do I need to use it to save my life? Old Gu was the first to jump up. Chu Feng said, Old Gu, don't say that. What if one day you cry and beg me to take it back? What if you want to wear it to save your old life? Bah, impossible. If that's the case, I might as well kill myself. My big brother, Li Su, will lose all face because of me. Chu Feng curled his lips in disdain and said, forget it. Your big brother is very shameless. Don't laugh at me. Then he began to urge the Manchurian tiger, saying, Big brother tiger, aren't you always thinking about the white tiger saintess? You should know that there's no chance without a good betrothal gift. I'll leave his task to you. The Manchurian tiger shook his head like a rattle drum. No, I'm serious. I think there's a great omen here. Let's go quickly. Chu Feng took action himself. He flipped the great evil spirit over from the black chariot and said, I'll put this chariot away first. The chariot was very large and magnificent, but it was completely black. It was no longer the divine golden light it had before. It was very different from before. Chu Feng asked, It'd be good if it could be a little smaller. It's so big that I can't even put it away to purify it. Old Gu, do you have any weapon controlling techniques? An ancient technique that specializes in controlling this kind of supreme chariot. I really do, Old Gu said. In fact, this chariot was the only thing he cared about. He had his eyes on it since a long time ago. Chu Feng tried it according to his instructions. As expected, the tall chariot shrank. Old Gu's secret technique was effective. The body of the chariot was broken and missing a part, but it was still very terrifying. It emitted an astonishing aura. Even though Chu Feng's body was covered with reincarnation earth, he still felt as if he was being cut by a knife. If he approached the black chariot normally, he was sure that he would most likely explode at the first moment. Even his soul light would explode. Not bad. Old Gu, your technique is effective. Why don't you see who collected this? Don't tell me it's your big brothers? Chu Feng asked. Of course. The highest level weapon controlling technique is effective regardless of the great realm or the race. Whoosh! After circulating that ancient technique several times, the chariot shrank and became 4 inches long. It was very exquisite and sparkling with black light. Chu Feng immediately sent it into the reincarnation earth in the stone jar. All right, we can go on our way. You guys wait a moment. I'll just take the last treasure. However, this time, when Chu Feng stepped forward with the wooden spear in hand, he himself began to feel alarmed. He kept feeling that this woman seemed to be in a deep sleep and wasn't completely dead. Great evil spirit, you're already dead anyway. It's a bit of a waste to bury so many treasures underground with you. I'll help you take them away and let them shine with the brilliance they deserve. Don't blame me for being tolerant. Chu Feng dawdled and comforted himself here. Next, he used the wooden spear to touch the cover of the big breasts. As a result, a great ominous aura assaulted his face and made his hair stand on end. At the same time, he saw with his own eyes that the woman's eyelids were twitching violently. Ghost! It wasn't Chu Feng who screamed, nor was it the Manchurian tiger. It was Old Gu who screamed first and began to shake the coffin. Old Gu, damn you! You're a ghost yourself. What are you screaming for? Are you trying to scare me to death? Chu Feng jumped up. Then he took the 2 people and drilled into the stone jar. He turned around and fled. The stone jar turned into a beam of light and flew away at an extremely fast speed. It was so fast that it pierced through the ground. The Manchurian tiger said, Brother, I told you that she's most likely alive, but you didn't believe me. Did you see that the black light on her body dissipated just now? Some parts of her body became pure white again. Don't say any more. Hurry up and leave. Chu Feng felt guilty. He also saw that the black light was fading away. This great evil spirit might really come back to life. Hurry up and leave, you little thief. It's one thing for you to steal her chariot, but look at you. You didn't even let go of her boots and long skirt. You've almost stripped her naked. If she comes back to life, the whole world will definitely hunt you down. You can't avoid responsibility, even if you want to. The Manchurian tiger nodded frantically and said, A great omen. Don't mention these words to me. Damn it, run. Chu Feng cursed. Behind him, the black light on the woman was restrained. Her entire body was snow white like jade. Her eyelids and long eyelashes were trembling. Her recovery was too fast. The aura she exuded was extremely astonishing and earth-shaking. Chapter 1142. Oh no, did you guys feel it? There's an earth-shattering, murderous aura behind us. That great evil spirit has really come back to life. Chu Feng cried. This was the worst result. If it really caught up, Chu Feng would be in a miserable state. For a moment, his face turned green. Even the dead have been brought back to life by you. Brother, your skills are getting more and more profound. Even the prehistoric Li Sanlong wasn't as good as you, shouted the Manchurian tiger. How can you say that? Damn donkey. Ouch, run. The old man shook the coffin and a bloody mist pervaded the air. He was very anxious. Damn it. Has it caught up? Cried the Manchurian tiger. His scalp was numb. Northeaster donkey, shut up. Don't scare people, shouted the old man. Evil ghost, who are you calling? This king's nickname is the Siberian tiger, and my real name is the Northeastern king. If you call me that again, I won't let you off. The Manchurian tiger gnashed his teeth. Chu Feng looked back. The light in the veins of the earth soared into the sky. It was too terrifying. The black light was transforming into white light, from terrifying to slightly holy. These were two completely opposite energies. She didn't chase after us. She hasn't moved, said the old man. This was the only thing that made Chu Feng feel a little at ease. The evil spirit seemed to be struggling in place and didn't chase after him. Chu Feng naturally didn't dare to stay. He drove the stone jar and fled frantically. Behind him, the great evil spirit suddenly opened her eyes. She wanted to get up but failed. Black and white lights alternated around her body. Her rotting flesh was turning back and becoming fair. However, there was an inexplicable order between heaven and earth sweeping over like a raging wave, suppressing her. The entire world was targeting her, wanting to suppress and kill her. This was a confrontation of energy runes of different attributes. At the same time, it was also a fierce conflict between the laws of different great realms. The great evil spirit was peerless in her generation, but now, her eyes were filled with killing intent. When she was robbed not long ago, she had already sensed it and was furious to the extreme. Who was she? Her status was too noble. Someone had actually robbed her and almost left her completely naked. It was really intolerable. If news of this were spread, it would be a complete joke. With her strength and status, how could such a thing happen? At this time, the great evil spirit was transforming from a moon fairy who fell into a coal mine to a pure white jade. The world was suppressing her. After several days of suffering, she had passed the death tribulation. She had made a lot of preparations before coming here along the waterfall. Otherwise, she would have died without a doubt if she had tried to break through with her physical body. Even so, she had paid a huge price and her life was in danger. You want to deal with us? Chu Feng said coldly. Old Gu clenched his teeth and said, who would have thought that this trustworthy organization would become like this with the changes of the times? Not only did they not protect their esteemed guest, but they also want to kill him. They've completely fallen. Chu Feng's expression was gloomy. He didn't wait for the Mo family to kill him, but instead this organization's evil intentions. What happened to the promised protection? Not only did they not honor their promise, but they even resorted to such malicious means. Stop right there, Chu Feng shouted. In the void, the divine will transmission was even clearer. Hee, little brother's vigilance is very high, but you're still too inexperienced. You can't leave. You bought so much of Granny Meng's soup from us, yet you didn't even tell us your true identity? Moreover, I see that your heavenly blood star space Mother Goldsword is not bad. Why don't you sell it to us? That person laughed and closed in with extreme speed. Chu Feng was inwardly furious. This organization had sold so much Granny Meng's soup and received many benefits, yet they were still not satisfied. They thought he was a fat sheep and had their eyes on the Mother Goldsword in his hands. They wanted to kill him in secret. You seem to have quite a lot of heavenly goldstones on you. Why don't you exchange some with us? That person laughed. This was undisguised malice. They felt that they had heavenly goldstones on them, so they wanted to get rid of their so-called esteemed guest and directly make an even greater transaction. You're too dishonest. The promises you made are not worth a fart. Chu Feng said angrily. Little brother, don't be angry, that person shouted. There was a carefree smile on his face, as if everything was under his control. Prepare to kill. Old Gu, can you smash him to death if I use you? Chu Feng asked. Old Gu said in a low voice. If it's just him, he should be able to fight. He's just a divine king. So who's afraid of him? However, I keep feeling my hair stand on end. There might be even more vicious creatures following us. Chu Feng said, then don't smash you. Didn't we just get the war chariot, hairpin, and other secret treasures? Attack, smash him, and kill him. It was too fast. That person was about to catch up. Throw! Chu Feng shouted. They all hid in the stone jars and covered their bodies with reincarnation soil. In the end, the Manchurian tiger was the most flustered and was the first to throw. Bang! He smashed one of his boots, which hit the middle-aged man in front of him. Brother Tiger, I told you to throw the war chariot and hairpin. What's the use of smashing my shoes? Chu Feng was anxious. It was too dangerous to be chased to such a close distance. He even wanted to risk death and summon the most powerful divine, King Tribulation. However, the result was unexpected. With a pung sound, the delicate boots that seemed to be refined from Qilin's skin smashed into the incoming person. His body trembled violently and blood splashed everywhere. His face was covered in blood, and his expression was one of shock and horror. Then, half of this divine king's body was ruined. Damn, what kind of shoes are these? They're actually so powerful when worn on those black feet. Chu Feng sighed in admiration. As for that divine king, he was roaring angrily. He was too unwilling. Just now, he felt as if he had been smashed by a Qilin. The pain was unbearable. Trash! A cold voice sounded from behind. A black figure was closing in. It was too terrifying, making the void tremble and about to collapse. As expected, there's a big one following us. However, there's nothing to be afraid of. If one shoe can't deal with it, then we'll just use another shoe. Old Gu shouted. The Manchurian tiger didn't say anything else. The second boot smashed out, and the Qilin's roar shook the heavens. Chapter 1143. The middle-aged man screamed miserably as the second boot came smashing over. Although it was thrown by the Manchurian tiger, it was supported by the old man and possessed boundless power. It directly struck the divine king, causing his shoulder to explode and turn into a bloody mist. Ah! The divine king screamed miserably. This wasn't only physical pain, but also mental humiliation. He was almost killed after being smashed by the two boots. What kind of logic was this? He was a divine king. If he was smashed to death by two boots, he would definitely become a laughingstock and be recorded in the annals of history. He would be mocked by the evolvers of later generations. A black shadow appeared behind him. It hadn't protected him just now. This creature's expression was cold as he stared at the stone jar in front of him. His eyes were eerie as he stood in the black mist. Flying chariot from outer space, Chu Feng shouted. He personally took action and removed a movable handrail from the chariot. He smashed it with all his might, causing black light to explode into the sky. At the same time, the old man cooperated in secret. He silently took out two ear studs he had found on the great evil spirit's body and attacked the person hidden in the black mist. This person was extremely powerful. Although he hadn't arrived yet, he was already suffused with energy that made even divine kings tremble. The divine king, who had only his head and neck left after being smashed by the two boots, was shivering. Bang! Unfortunately, the creature in the black mist was too powerful. He blocked the handrail that Chu Feng had thrown out. Chu Feng and the others sighed inwardly. It was a pity that they couldn't smash him into pieces like they did with the divine king. However, there was still a certain effect. When the creature in the black mist touched the handrail, his palm began to emit green smoke. It was as if ice and snow had come into contact with molten iron. He flung his hand fiercely and revealed an astonished expression. He threw the handrail at his feet and looked down. Whose chariot is this? Then he suddenly raised his head and revealed two strange black lights in his eyes. They turned into two vortexes and imprisoned the old man's ear studs in front of him. Boom! The ear studs were astonishing. They blossomed with dazzling brilliance and stirred up astonishing energy waves in the vortex, almost tearing it apart. But in the end, it was still fixed in place and then fell down, smashing into the handrail of the chariot. The figure in the black mist revealed a terrifying black light in his eyes. He was very astonished. The person in front of him was far weaker than him, yet he could actually resist his secret technique. This was a bit frightening. Whose chariot was this? It had no effect. Chu Feng's heart sank. This won't do. This is a big guy with superb skills. I haven't recovered my prehistoric strength, so I can't do anything even if I take out the earring. The earring was an inanimate object. Even though it was extraordinary, the user's current level of evolution could not be compared to the creature standing in the shadow. The gap was insurmountable. He approached. His enormous body, aged face, and demonic eyes made him look like a great demon in the black mist. Great Tao symbols flowed about his body. He was 10 zhang tall, and his entire body was covered in black scales that flickered with an ice-cold metallic luster. Waves of blood energy surged from his body, and the pressure he exuded was terrifying. Even space itself was shattered. This was an old demon from an unknown race. He had 1 foot in the Empyrean domain and could strangle a group of divine kings. In the eyes of the world, he was a half-step Empyrean. His aura was too violent. Following his appearance, the divine king that only had a head left cracked and dripped with blood. That remaining head was about to explode. This was an extremely terrifying matter. Not even a divine king's body could withstand this furious existence's pressure. The stone jar shook violently, and the reincarnation earth surged. If not for these two materials, Chu Feng and the others would have been blasted into bloody mists by his aura. Fortunately, the stone jar was sealed with a lid. You have some skill. I thought you would only give me large amounts of heavenly goldstone. Who would have thought that there would be a mysterious jar? Don't tell me this is an ultimate item. If that's the case, the patriarch will go crazy from excitement. His eyes revealed a blazing radiance. However, his words were cold and his aura was terrifying. It tore this space apart, and even the chaotic void was fiercely attacking. He stretched out a hand and grabbed forward. Old Gu, it's all up to you. Have you prepared the power and backup you used when you were alive? Chu Feng shouted. My ass. If I could use the methods I used when I was alive, I would have slapped him to death a long time ago. Old Gu shouted. His head was covered in cold sweat. Smash! The Manchurian tiger shouted. What else could they do now? This terrifying creature was about to grab the stone jar. It was like catching a turtle in a jar. Die! Chu Feng shouted. Kill! Old Gu also shouted. The moment the lid was opened, they worked together to blast the war chariot away. At the same time, they secretly took out the snow-white hairpin and stabbed it at the creature in the black mist. Boom! This place exploded. The aura was too terrifying. After the war chariot flew out, it collided with the hand that reached over. In the end, it was blocked. However, as the black light surged, that hand was also being corroded. That half-step Empyrean cried out in alarm. Energy that doesn't belong to the Yang realm. Could it be an evil spirit? He let out a low roar. The laws and order runes he had sacrificed were destroyed. Blood flowed everywhere. Even someone as powerful as his hand was injured. Unfortunately, the war chariot fell to the ground and couldn't kill him. At the same time, the snow-white hairpin also fell to the ground. It was suppressed by the laws he had drawn. At the critical moment, Chu Feng and the others took out the pendant they had taken from the great evil spirit's neck and placed it outside the stone jar. It blossomed with a faint light and blocked the incoming aura. Haha! Well, scattering child, thank you. These are all good things. I actually encountered such a great opportunity. The half-step Empyrean had a smile on his face. He could naturally see that none of the things thrown out from the stone jar were ordinary items. All of them were extraordinary. If they were given to the right person to use, it would simply be unimaginable. The destructive power would be world-shaking. However, he didn't immediately take action this time. He felt that this stone jar was strange and that there was a vicious creature hidden inside. At the very least, he had been injured just now. However, he didn't stop for too long. He secretly operated his most powerful method. The Order runes were like luminous chains that extended and interweaved, completely enveloping the stone jar. He wanted to seal off this place and suppress the stone jar. This person was extremely cautious. He always felt that the stone jar was too astonishing, and the objects spat out from within were too extraordinary. It made his heart beat a bit faster. Thus, he didn't act rashly. For the sake of safety, he prepared to slowly refine it. The old man was anxious. The most valuable thing they had obtained from the great evil spirit body was the pendant hanging from the chain made of dark source gold. It was a small black seal that was now suspended at the mouth of the stone jar. The old man was waiting for that large hand to approach so that he could find an opportunity to activate this seal. In the end, the other party didn't easily approach. Instead, it covered the jar with laws and sealed them here. The half-step Empyrean was so powerful, yet he was so cautious. The old man sighed. He felt that things didn't bode well for him. He didn't even have the chance to launch his strongest attack. A small seal that is 1 inch square and terrifyingly black. It isn't something of my world. Is this the ultimate trump card you are relying on? I'll kindly accept it. It will belong to me. The half-step Empyrean calmed down. He sealed off the void and used the divine chains of order to wind around the stone jar. He completely calmed down. The old man shouted, "Tao friend, aren't you a bit lacking in sincerity? Your organization's reputation has always been good. So why are you acting like bandits today, purging the buyers with blood? The times are changing, so some rules naturally have to be changed as well. Killing you all will not only allow us to obtain more heavenly gold stone, but we can also retrieve the Grandma Meng soup we sold you all, so why not?" The half-step Empyrean indifferently said, "Your hearts are too black, too malicious." The old man was furious. If we weren't ruthless enough, how could our organization have survived from prehistoric times to this era? The half-step Empyrean smiled. He stood in the black mist, his eyes cold. Being shameless and ruthless is one thing, but you still think it's only natural. Has your conscience been eaten by dogs? The Manchurian tiger shouted. They and Chu Feng both felt a wave of anger. Not only did the other party fail to fulfill their promise of protection, they even wanted to kill them and seize their goods. It was truly hateful. So what if you all are anxious and angry? You can't change this reality. We won't keep our promise, so what can you all do? The half-step Empyrean smile was cold. I am precisely going to kill your bodies and souls, seize the heavenly objects and natural luck that belong to you all. You all can go on your way. He began to activate natural laws, wishing to refine the stone container and the pendant blocking its opening. You can only blame yourselves for being too weak. You all are useless, yet you all vainly wish to wield rare heavenly objects. You all can all turn into dung. He released an expanse of light, wishing to slowly refine the stone container. It had to be said that the pendant was terrifying and the stone container was mysterious. Neither of them could be immediately refined. Chu Feng didn't hope for anything unexpected to happen. When the other party set their resolution to refine them, he took action ahead of time. The reincarnation earth shone, a wooden spear inserted within. Right now, life force surged, a mysterious energy spreading outwards. We're done for. The Manchurian tiger felt his blood run cold. Even the Empyrean took action, so they were most likely going to immediately turn into a lump of blood. The old man roared, shaking that pendant. Light flickered about, fighting with everything he had. Kill! Chu Feng released a light shout. He used his final trump card, activating that wooden spear. As the reincarnation earth shone, it flew out with a soaring sound. Pooh! That small wooden spear the length of a chopstick shot out like lightning, unexpectedly piercing through the half-step Empyrean's order cage. Moreover, with a PU sound, it pierced through the figure in the black mist. That black silhouette let out a blood-curdling scream, and his body violently shook. The blood all over his body turned black all of a sudden, and even his soul light became pitch black like ink in that instant. He was trembling in fear. He felt as though he was being devoured, drowned in darkness, and strangled. The other experts of the organization that sold the time furnace sensed something. They suddenly raised their heads, staring at a certain coordinate region in this world. There were also experts from the MO family in the outer region of the waterfall. They sensed the abnormalities between heaven and earth. At the same time, within the underground ancestral vein, that peerless great evil spirit had already sat up. Darkness surged, as if a terrifying great world had descended, imprisoning the half-step Empyrean. Heavens! Chapter 1144. A small wooden spear the length of a chopstick actually had such great power? The old man was shocked. Meanwhile, the Manchurian tiger stared blankly, and his body couldn't help but spasm. What kind of ancient object was this? This was making a half-step Empyrean bleed. Chu Feng himself felt his heart palpitate. Even though he had high hopes for this object from the bottom of his heart, he was still shocked now. It directly killed that great demon in the black mist. This was extremely astonishing. He naturally knew that this little black spear wasn't an ordinary object. It was because when he was choosing, there were several grains of reincarnation earth between his fingers that actually became hot and resonated. At that time, he understood that this object was world-shocking. He had picked this unremarkable little spear from the pile of objects in the hands of the middle-aged woman selling the time furnace. Many people had laughed at him back then, but only Chu Feng himself knew that he had gained a gargantuan bargain. This object alone surpassed all the objects on the ground apart from the time furnace. And he had even done experiments in the heaven-piercing waterfall. He had an initial understanding that this object could be activated and had immeasurable power. However, he didn't dare to use it with great fanfare at that time. Now, he activated the wooden spear at the critical moment, and the effects exceeded his expectations. In the black mist, that 10-jong-tall creature roared and couldn't help but roll about. He felt as if doomsday had arrived. All the scales on his body were falling off, and the great Tao symbols in his blood were collapsing and dimming. His own energy was declining sharply. Even his soul light began to turn terrifyingly dark. It was dissolving and dissipating. He seemed to have fallen into a boundless black abyss and was about to reach the end of his life. How is this possible? He simply didn't dare believe that the prey in his eyes, a weak and petty nobody, was actually going to kill him. While he was terrified, he was also unable to restrain his anger. He couldn't accept this. Was his life going to flow away, cleanly like this? He roared and was about to go crazy. He wanted to suppress the chicken and dog in the stone jar. However, he discovered that it was useless even if he went crazy. His energy plummeted, and the great Tao fragments in his blood were disappearing and scattering. And at this time, the old man was going all out. He activated the small black imprint, making it shine, and blocked the mouth of the stone jar out of fear that the other party would counterattack before death. "Retreat, run!" The old goo cried out. He was also about to go crazy. When facing a half-step Empyrean on the verge of death, he felt as if even his soul was trembling. It was because once this type of creature lost all hope, even if it was on the verge of death, its destructive power would still be horrifying. "We can't escape. The cage of laws he set up hasn't been completely destroyed," shouted the Manchurian tiger. His face was also deathly pale. They still did not know how bad the old fiendish demon's condition had become. All his Tao fruits were crumbling. The Manchurian tiger trembled. It wanted to summon the lid of the stone jar and seal it, but the lid was stuck by the laws outside and didn't move at all. "Old goo, do you want to wear this dress?" Chu Feng didn't panic. He threw a long dress with stars twinkling on it to the mouth of the stone jar for defense. Old goo's face stiffened, and his expression turned slightly green. Was that really true? How long had it been? Was he going to be forced to wear an evil spirit's dress? Boom! While he was hesitating, the half-step celestial sovereign went crazy. He was in unbearable pain, shaking violently. Black mist immediately overflowed into the heavens. I'll wear it. Old Goo was very shameless. Even though he was hiding in the sky gold sarcophagus, he was still afraid. He felt that it wasn't safe, so he quickly hid behind the hem of the dress to defend himself. As for the Manchurian tiger, he was pulled by Chu Feng to hide under the reincarnation earth. Motherf asterisk Kerr. Old Goo slapped his face and also sank into the reincarnation earth. He had forgotten about these souls and flesh. It was a typical case of being in the dark under the lamp. In reality, they were overthinking things. Even if the half-step celestial sovereign counterattacked on the verge of death, it was useless. It didn't affect the stone jar at all. Oh no, how can this be? My Tao fruit, the heavenly blood I cultivated my entire life. How can it be dim? The runes have dissipated, and my celestial sovereign blood has been stripped away. Even my Tao bones are broken. This powerful existence, roiling in the black mist, was an incomparable pain. His blood was turning black, and the so-called powerhouse's foundation and traces of the great Tao were being erased. They were disappearing too quickly. Meanwhile, his soul light was also disintegrating intensely. His powerful spiritual force vanished like smoke in the black light. It was as if a dark world had descended, stripping away the half-step celestial sovereign's blood and bones. It crushed his Tao immortal and reduced him to a mortal. He disintegrated, and his flesh turned into a large area of filthy blood. It was so black that it was terrifying. His powerful vitality was dissipating, and he was approaching the end of his decline. He was on the verge of death. No, I'm a half-step celestial sovereign. How can I die in the hands of a few insects? I have a chance to become a true celestial sovereign in this life. I'm not resigned to this. He roared. He was really about to go crazy. It was unknown how many dangers he had experienced to be able to reach this step in his life. The path of evolution for creatures at this level was rugged and dangerous. It was incomparably difficult. For him to have such a Tao fruit, it wasn't just a matter of talent, but also good fortune and luck. But today, he was going to die so miserably. It was too lamentable. Could it be that our organization has reneged on the prehistoric agreement? Since ancient times, we have frequently killed people and robbed their goods. We have done too many atrocious things. Is this retribution? No, I'm not resigned to this. I'm just an executor. There are still powerhouses at a higher level. Why can't I find them? His body exploded and was swallowed up by darkness. His entire being seemed to have turned black as he sunk into the abyss of hell. He couldn't even see his own fingers in front of him, and only cries of fear could be heard. This kind of death was different from others. After being pierced by the small black spear, his life was stripped away. During the process of decay, he even experienced a type of indescribable pain. Impossible. What did I see? I seem to have sunk into a great world of darkness. I'm being dismembered by someone. Oh, what is that? Evil, Azura, strange matter. He began to babble nonsense. It was as if he saw something in the final moments of his life. He was struggling with all his might. Unfortunately, he completely exploded with a bow sound. His body and soul light no longer existed. Ashes scattered in the air, and he died thoroughly. It was impossible for him to reincarnate, even if he wanted to. Only a small amount of filthy black blood remained nearby, but had long lost its vitality. This seemed to have become some type of pollution source. Only after a short while had passed did Old Goo and the Manchurian tiger emerge. They naturally personally sensed everything, and all of their fine hairs stood on end. What kind of situation was this? Even Chu Feng was awed. A half-step Empyrean had been strangled to death by him just like that. That small black wooden spear was only the length of a chopstick. It calmly floated in the void, motionless. It was actually so evil, so terrifying. Not too far away, that God King had already died. What remained of his head was splashed with the black blood of the half-step Empyrean before he died, causing his body and soul to be destroyed. In fact, if he hadn't been imprisoned here by the laws of the half-step Empyrean, he would have had a chance of escaping. With a hum, Chu Feng finally drove the stone jar through the cage of laws, breaking free. In fact, following the miserable death of the half-step Empyrean, the laws themselves were also rapidly dissipating. Whoosh! Chu Feng took back the small spear, treating it as a rare treasure and leaving it in the stone jar. But soon after, he cried out miserably. This was because he discovered that a small part of the samsara earth was missing. There was a small piece of ash that had been burned away. It wasn't much, but Chu Feng still couldn't help but howl into the heavens. This was something that even Li Su wanted to find, and only the heavens knew what use it had. To this day, no one knew the correct way to use the samsara earth, but now, some of it had been squandered away by that small wooden spear. His heart ached to the point of death. I knew it. This thing is evil and monstrous. It actually needs the samsara earth to be nourished in order to summon it out and have killing power. Chu Feng was indignant, but there was nothing he could do. He had been forced to this step just now, and even if he knew that he needed to burn the samsara earth, he still had to do so. Pick up the things, hurry up. Chu Feng called out to the Manchurian tiger and Old Gu. He collected the war chariot into the stone jar, but when he wanted to pick up the other objects, he discovered that they were covered in black blood. There were also other objects that had been sent flying too far away. No, let's run. Chu Feng roared. Let's go. Old Gu also shouted. That was because they had sensed it immediately. It was as if a great calamity was about to descend and their lives were about to be destroyed. Chu Feng drove the stone jar and broke through the void turbulence to escape. Along the way, he set up another transportation domain and escaped without a trace. Boom! The heavens fell and the earth split apart. Ghosts wept and deities howled. As soon as they left, several experts from that organization arrived. At the same time, people from the MO family also arrived. They discovered the remnant black blood and sensed some special objects, such as ear studs. Chapter 1145. This energy fluctuation was too terrifying. It collapsed the earth veins and pierced through the ground. Rubble shot through the air, and the hundreds of thousands of meters high sky was filled with dust and boulders. There was a huge explosion on the ground, and a figure soared up. It was her who had caused all of this. And this was only the aftermath. Something even more terrifying was happening near the woman. The void exploded and black cracks began to spread out, rushing high into the sky. She traversed the vast sky, and the void was collapsing. As for the earth, it was sinking and dropping rapidly. For a moment, the magma violently surged, and the scarlet waves reached high into the sky. The clouds had long been dispersed, and the ground was a vast expanse of red. At this moment, a violent gale swept up the magma, and the world was filled with red liquid. Then, lightning flashed and thunder rumbled, hacking down from the heavens, colliding with the sea of magma on the ground and the scarlet magma that was swept into the air. Radiance overflowed, deafening explosions rose and fell one after another. It was as if doomsday had arrived in this world. The great evil spirit's body was naked as she traversed the sky. This kind of scene appeared along the way. During this process, she was constantly adjusting her state. She was still far from her peak, yet she had already created such a terrifying, apocalyptic scene. It was as if a great calamity had appeared again. Plop! Suddenly, she fell into the red sea of magma. Her condition wasn't very good. Black energy appeared on her snow-white, jade-like body and flowing with black light. After entering this world, she had always been adapting and resisting. She had to face the suppression of the entire great world. She hadn't completely overcome the death tribulation. The great Tao fragments in her body were in conflict with this world. Although she was doing her best to transform them, she was still in transition. Humph! With a cold snort, She rose up from the sea of magma. The black light on her body was restrained and her skin was once again snow-white like suet jade. But in her current state, there were pitifully few clothes left on her body. Her expression was unsightly. Her killing intent surged as she flew and tore through the firmament. In front of her, the large-scale domains laid down by the Mo family collapsed as her killing intent swept out. The so-called divine magnets engraved with great Tao runes exploded and turned into powder. She was like a true immortal descending into the world, omnipotent as she charged forward. Amidst the clanging sounds, some armor appeared on her snow-white body and covered her whole body. Even part of her face was covered by a silver helmet, leaving only a pair of pupils. There was no doubt that the intense fluctuations here were too shocking. Moreover, the area where the sky-piercing waterfall was located was too special. The mist that pervaded the air caused everyone's perception to drop severely. If it wasn't for that, the stone Buddha, Haiyuan, Hung Tao, and the others would have sensed it immediately. The people from that organization were the first to arrive at the scene of Chu Feng's escape, and the people from the Mo clan followed closely behind. When they saw the scene, their expressions turned cold. They were originally in a void channel, but when that half-step Empyrean caught up to Chu Feng, he tore open space and fell to the ground. At this moment, the ground was covered in black blood. That organization and the Mo family had sent quite a number of experts, and almost all of them were god kings. Moreover, there were half-step Empyreans secretly descending in this region. The terrifying aura that filled the air had long been sensed by those who were observant, intimidating their souls. Both sides were extremely powerful. These people spread out, naturally surrounding this place in an instant. Their eyes were attracted by a few artifacts. Ear studs, snow-white jade hairpins, boots, and other things were scattered all over the place, stained with black blood. "Who dares to target our organization?" An old man roared. His gaze was cold, and his head of short hair was like the needles of a hedgehog. This was an old god king who was walking towards the peak. He wasn't far from the Empyrean domain, and he was unable to restrain his anger. After arriving here, the members of the organization called Western Sky already understood that one of their god kings had died, and a half-step Empyrean had also been killed. This kind of situation was extremely vile and miserable. There were people who dared to make a move against Western Sky and forcefully strangle them. This definitely meant that they came with ill intentions. However, they also had doubts in their hearts. That god king had a mission to find the young wandering cultivator who had purchased Granny Meng's soup in the outer region. He was preparing to seize back the liquid of fortune, as well as to kill him and take away the heavenly gold stone and other things on his body. He was nothing more than a wandering cultivator who wasn't more than 11 or 12 years old. If they really found him, it could be said that a single toe would be enough to take his life and easily take back Granny Meng's soup. How could there be such a terrible situation? In addition, that half-step Empyrean was in charge of patrolling. When he arrived at this area, he unexpectedly also died. A god king from the Western Sky organization made a move. With a lift of his hand, 2 earrings soaked in black blood were sucked into the air, and he was about to hold them in his hand. Wait a moment. The foreign desolate races Mo family's people stopped him. A god king intervened because people at their level could naturally see that these earrings were strange. There were indistinctly special symbols flickering on them. These were rare treasures. Even the eyes of the half-step Empyrean in the dark revealed a radiance, and great Tao fragments appeared in their pupils. Mo family's Tao brother, why are you doing this? This item is soaked in the blood of our organization's God King. I want to search for clues, so why are you stopping me? Tao brother, please don't blame me. These earrings are tangled with a demonic aura, and their origins are strange. Moreover, the black blood looks very frightening. There's a big problem, so I'll help you. The Mo family's God King had a faint smile on his face. The Western Sky organization's people's faces sunk. The other side clearly wanted to interfere. Without a doubt, both sides were interested in the items on the ground and wanted to take them for themselves. However, on the surface, they couldn't shed all pretense of cordiality, so they didn't say it directly. There's no need. Our organization is enough to get to the bottom of this. The Western Sky Organization's God King refused. The MO family's people shook their heads and said righteously, "Brother's words are wrong. Not long ago, an evil spirit appeared. These items are either related to the sky-piercing waterfall or are tainted by an evil spirit. We can't be careless. Everyone has one of these earrings. Let's investigate them together and see what kind of evil spirit is causing mischief." The Western Sky Organization's people's faces turned slightly green. The death of a God King was fine, but now a half-step Empyrean had unexpectedly fallen. This was definitely not a small loss, especially since this person had the possibility of becoming an Empyrean. Relatively speaking, he had died an untimely death. This was a grievous news. Now, the MO family also took a fancy to these items and unexpectedly wanted to fight with them over them, delaying their time to chase the murderer. This made them angry. "Give them one." A silver-robed person from the Western Sky Organization walked out. This was an old woman. Her figure was very straight, and her back was perfectly straight. However, her appearance was somewhat aged. She was a half-step Empyrean, and compared to the creature that had died under the wooden spear, she was stronger and not weaker. While speaking, she took an earring and avoided the black blood. She operated a special method, wanting to go back in time and see what had happened not long ago. However, she failed. There was no way to investigate the bloodshed that had occurred here. How could this be? She was gobsmacked. And, on the other side, the MO family's experts also used a similar method. Some secret techniques could appear in a moment of the past, but in the end, they failed. However, both sides coincidentally had the same interest in the earring. When they activated it, this earring filled the air with an astonishing radiance and emitted a special law fluctuation. This seems to be some kind of lost weapon refining technique recorded in history books, someone from the MO family whispered. The great evil spirit had crossed over. Apart from bringing weapons from that world, it naturally had to bring the items it had obtained from the Yang realm in the past. This was for the convenience of walking in this world and not colliding with the original rules of heaven and earth. Rumble. Almost at the same time, both sides went to fight over that snow-white hairpin. Even the boots that looked like dragon skin and Chelan skin also caused a fight. They all realized that this was an extraordinary item, even though they didn't know its origin. MO family, you've gone too far. This is an item left behind by our dead divine king and half-step Empyrean. It carries their lifeblood, and you still dare to fight over it? The faces of the Western Paradise Organization's people were ashen, carrying a cold chill. The MO family's people didn't show weakness and said, "Fellow Taoist, these words are wrong. Not only did your people die, but my clan's MO Lei and MO Feng also died tragically in the waterfall. We've been tracking them all the way here, and we have reason to believe that it was done by the same murderer. These items simply aren't your organization's, but rather the evil person's murder weapon. Naturally, we have to get our hands on it and carefully study it." During the process of Chu Feng's escape, he had touched the MO family's domain, drawing the attention of the MO family's experts in that area, and they chased him all the way. Rumble. The Western Paradise Organization's people moved to snatch the jade hairpin and said, "Our people are chasing after a wild cultivator like a clay chicken and pottery dog. An accident occurred, and we ask the MO family's fellow Taoists not to disturb us." Crack. All of a sudden, before the MO family's people could respond, the void here exploded. For a moment, not to mention ordinary creatures, even the gods were screaming and covered in blood. Who is it? They looked back in horror. The large-scale domain behind them was disintegrating. The 3 layers of large-scale domain laid down by the MO family, the stone Buddha, and the reinforcements that had arrived later had completely collapsed. After the domain that had locked down the heaven and earth had collapsed, the great evil spirit had come across the sky. The terrifying energy it had stirred up could no longer be concealed, and it covered the sky and the earth as it poured down in torrents. Behind it, the vast sea of lava was surging. Swish! The great evil spirit rushed to the scene and stood quietly in the void. Her style was peerless, and her whole body was covered in silver armor. However, her curves and figure were enough to prove that she had an extraordinary body. All the energy was restrained within her body and no longer overflowed. She wasn't in a good state. Her clear eyes immediately saw that her earrings, silver hairpin, and boots were being held in someone's hands. In an instant, the heaven and earth changed, and the wind and clouds lost their color. Thunder and lightning crashed down from the ninth heaven. Lightning flashed, thunder rumbled, and torrential rain poured down. It was a blood-colored lightning and a pitch-black rain. The sea of lava behind them didn't approach, but it soared hundreds of thousands of meters into the sky. It was as if the red sky was shaking the world. Heavens, who is this? Even the divine kings were shocked. The heaven and earth had changed because of the woman's mood. She hadn't attacked, nor had she poured out her energy, but it was already like this. How terrifying was this evolver? "Thou friend, no, senior, let's talk this out," said a divine king from the MO family. The earring was still floating above his palm, but he didn't dare to hold it. Pow! Right at this moment, the woman slapped him across the face. And then, there was no then. He didn't even have the chance to scream before turning into a bloody mist and burning to ashes. The MO family was furious. However, the half-step celestial venerable from their clan endured and stopped them. He himself saluted and said, "Thou friend, please forgive us if we've offended you. My clan passed through this place only to catch a wild cultivator who doesn't know the immensity of heaven and earth. We don't think we've offended you. There must be some misunderstanding." In his hand, he was holding a boot. The great evil spirit looked at the boot in his hand and didn't say anything. No man had ever dared to touch her boots like this, so there was nothing more to say. She slapped him. "Thou friend." The half-step celestial venerable from the MO family was shocked and angry. He did everything he could to resist. However, he still exploded with a pop, turning into blood and bones. Without any suspense, he was directly blown up. Even his soul light couldn't escape. His body and soul were destroyed. Chapter 1146. This was a half-step Empyrean. It was destroyed just like that. It was just a slap. What step into the Empyrean domain? What heavenly blood-endowed bones? All of it was smashed to pieces. It exploded, thoroughly dead. As soon as the great evil spirit made its move, the entire area was in panic. The people of the MO family were shaken and terrified. They screamed, and some people attacked without fear of death. There were even some who wanted to escape underground. Humph! It was just a cold snort, but everyone who moved froze. They were either imprisoned in the soil or imprisoned in midair. Time seemed to freeze and stop. In the next moment, these people were silently decomposed. A bloody mist drifted in the air, thick and pungent. Those who didn't move were all quiet out of fear. This matter was too terrifying. The ones who died were all deities, and there was even a divine king, as well as that half-step Empyrean. MO family's people's faces all turned green, and then they became deathly white without the slightest bit of color. Today, they were thoroughly defeated. They came from a foreign wasteland race. So how powerful and frightening were they? But the other side was fearless. They attacked so tyrannically, shredding the MO family's face. They didn't fear the MO family's powerful heritage. The foreign wasteland race was established by people who understood the heavens and the earth. They grasped good fortune, and their level of evolution was extremely shocking. They intimidated the world of the living. Who dared to provoke them? Who dared to make enemies at will? The remaining people of the MO family didn't dare to move. Not far away, the people of the Western Paradise Organization all had their hair stand on end. They didn't dare to move. They were all scared stiff. They had many experts, but they weren't stronger than the MO family. The one with the highest achievements was the silver-robed old woman, a half-step Empyrean. Her body was stiff. At this time, everyone had a feeling that they were like mortals being stared at by a demonic god. Their bodies and souls were about to collapse. The level disparity was too great. The woman in the void, the great evil spirit, wore silver armor on her perfect body. Her curves were undulating, slender, and beautiful. Her face was covered with a silver mask. She turned her head to stare at the people of the Western Paradise Organization. The divine king holding the boots, a veteran evolver of the absolute peak domain, was trembling in fear. He had already realized that all the problems were caused by a few items. "Dao friend, I have something to say," he shouted. He was afraid that he wouldn't have a chance to speak. He trembled and wanted to explain the misunderstanding. He quickly lifted the Chilean leather boots with profound light, wanting to respectfully offer them to the woman. Boom! A ray of light surged out from the great evil spirit's body and smashed into the old peak-level God King, instantly turning him into dust. Only a few wisps of blood mist floated out. The great evil spirit couldn't stand it when someone touched a private item like the shoes, so it launched a fierce attack. Crushing, instant kill. The souls of the Western Sky Organization's people were all trembling in fear. They truly couldn't continue living. In the end, how strong was this woman? They had encountered an unimaginably terrible crisis. Most importantly, it was useless even if they wanted to explain. Then, they immediately thought of the black blood and special artifacts on the ground. Were they all left behind by this woman? The heart of the Western Paradise Organization's silver-robed old woman, that half-step Empyrean, was shaking with fear. How could she not be afraid? An earring and a silver hairpin floated above her palm. These were all talismans that would hasten her death. Her body swayed, and her soul shivered. She actually knelt down. In order to survive, she was not afraid of humiliation and kept a low profile. Then, her body suddenly flourished with great splendor. That was a golden Empyrean decree. It rapidly unfolded and blossomed with exceptionally powerful energy, wrapping her in the sky and burrowing into the earth. That was because she didn't pin her hopes on the other party's forgiveness. Kneeling down was only a temporary forbearance to numb the other party. She wanted to rely on the organization's life-saving method to escape. As for the others, her subordinates, those gods, and the two god kings, she didn't care that much. As long as she herself could survive, it was a success. It had to be said that the Empyrean decree was world-shaking. As soon as it appeared, it wrapped around her and tore apart the vast sky. The speed was too fast. At this moment, time seemed to be reversing. She was going to disappear. However, in the void, a pure white palm stretched out, neither too fast nor too slow. It noiselessly pressed down like that, reaching into the resplendent golden light and pressing down on the old woman below. The old woman coughed up a large mouthful of blood. Then, she discovered to her horror that the decree was breaking into pieces and then exploding. It transformed into an energy vortex that sucked in her soul light and then strangled her to death. The silver-robed old woman from the Western Paradise Organization screamed. It was short and urgent, incomparably miserable, and then her voice came to a screeching halt. With just one palm, the great evil spirit's pure white palm, which was like suet jade, pierced through the end of the horizon. That golden decree disintegrated and the old woman exploded. A half-step Empyrean died, tragically, body and soul extinguished. Everyone was overwhelmed with shock. That decree originated from the Western Sky Organization and was personally written by a heavenly venerable. In the end, it was actually blown up by someone, and even the old woman was unable to escape by relying on this decree, let alone others. Everyone was in despair. The great evil spirit was peerless in her generation. Ordinarily, she had a good temper, but now the corners of her eyes and the tips of her brows carried a fiendish expression. There was no other reason than that she was almost stripped into a big white sheep. This kind of thing was simply unimaginable. It actually happened to her. Who was she? What kind of identity did she have? She was originally aloof and remote, but as soon as she arrived in the world of the living, she almost ran around naked. This kind of result was really unbearable, and it made her murderous aura surge to the heavens. This group of people fought over her ornaments, which made her feel particularly wretched. They even fought over the shoes and socks she wore on her snow-white jade feet. What was there to hesitate about? Kill without mercy. With a light shout, the great evil spirit made a move. All kinds of Tao law fragments appeared around her, and then suddenly rotated. As a result, whether it was the gods or the divine kings in the surroundings, they all disappeared, and a void exploded. Those creatures, even the divine kings, were like weeds that couldn't be pulled out. In an instant, their lives were harvested, and they turned into ashes. Looking at the ornaments on the ground, the great evil spirit's eyes flickered, and her beautiful eyes flickered with five-colored divine light. She wanted to destroy them all with a wave of her hand, feeling that they had been profaned. These had already become filth. However, she stopped her movements. Before that, she wanted to use a special technique to find out where the thief who had stolen her ornaments was. For a moment, this place was filled with floating light and flowing shadows. They were all things that had happened not long ago. There was the dispute between the Mo family and the Western Paradise Organization, and there was also the scene of the void splitting even earlier. However, there was no shadow of that thief. Unexpectedly, she couldn't go back. She was deeply surprised. When she was in the vein of the earth, she thought she had been infected with too much of the power of cause and effect, and was suppressed by this big world, so she failed to backtrack for a while. However, after arriving here, she had obviously become much stronger and gradually endured the erosion of this side of the world, but the result was still the same. What was going on? She was shocked. That thief had an extremely special heaven's treasure. Suddenly, her mood was bad. That thief had ransacked her from head to toe, taken away all kinds of ornaments, and left her naked, exposing a large area of her snow-white skin. In the end, he had actually succeeded in escaping. How could she be reconciled to this? Her earrings had been taken away, and her hairpin had become someone else's spoils of war. The most hateful thing was that even her shoes and socks had been lost. How could she accept such a ridiculous thing? Even if she had found a part of it now, it couldn't change what had happened. She used the secret technique again, and a white hand brushed the space between her eyebrows. In a split second, a drop of special blood overflowed with a brilliant light, illuminating the whole world. She didn't hesitate to use her strongest blood essence to find that thief. Old Goo, what do you think we should do if we are caught by the great evil spirit? What will happen to us? In an extremely distant place, Chu Feng guiltily asked Gu Chenhai. What else can we do? We will definitely be beaten to death. Old Gu replied. Chu Feng stubbornly said, Don't say such ominous words. If we are caught, I will return these things to her. At worst, I will compensate her with a few more pieces of clothing. Brother, in that case, you will definitely not be beaten to death by her. Manchurian Tiger nodded. You still have foresight. You're much better than Old Gu. Chu Feng patted his shoulder as if he had found some kind of psychological comfort. He let out a long sigh. Manchurian Tiger now had red lips and white teeth. He looked like a charming young man, a typical pretty boy. He laughed dryly and said, Brother, although you won't be beaten to death, you will be even more miserable. Old Gu sneered and said, Indeed, I won't be beaten to death, but I will definitely suffer a fate worse than death. Chapter 1147. Run. Chu Feng fled again and again. He had long since left the area where the heavenly immortal waterfall was located by using large-scale teleportation domains. Moreover, the divine magnetic stones behind him would burn themselves every time he went on the road, destroying them completely and leaving no traces behind. He had no choice but to flee. Although he hadn't seen the great evil spirit come back to life with his own eyes, he could imagine how tenacious this creature's vitality was. It was extremely terrifying. Once it caught up, he wouldn't be able to kill it even if he had 9 lives. He would die miserably. I shouldn't have casually rummaged through a dead person's belongings. It's indeed a great ominous shield. The elegant and beautiful Manchurian tiger sighed. He felt that if they were truly captured, he and Old Gu would also suffer miserably. It was just as Chu Feng had said, they were all in the same boat. Neither of them could escape, and they would all end up the same way. So what if you have big breasts? Let's talk about it after you catch me. Run. Chu Feng was unconvinced. During the flight and crossing the void, Chu Feng had completely covered the three of them with reincarnation soil, wrapping them up like dumplings. He didn't believe that the great evil spirit could still find him under the double isolation of heaven's mysteries by the stone jar and reincarnation soil. Under such circumstances, he could only accept his fate if he were to be caught. He could only blame his bad luck and that his fate had run out. At the scene of the incident, the blood on the great evil spirit's glabella was dazzling. Its brilliance illuminated the void and made the sky transparent. It was as if time and space had completely lost their mysteries and was about to reflect the past, present, and future. This was a supreme, special technique. She swore to find that thief. Using this technique was enough to overturn the universe and illuminate the past. However, after a full quarter of an hour, the colorful blood on her glabella began to burn, but still couldn't reverse time and space. On the contrary, the area was filled with primal chaos mist. Everything was blurry and the thief's roots couldn't be found. Pop! Only at the last moment, when this drop of special blood essence exploded and burned to the end, did a blurry scene reflect the hazy figure of a youth. His true body could be vaguely seen, but it was useless. It could only stop here and couldn't pursue any further. The great evil spirit's body shook slightly, and she took a few steps back. Her beautiful and fair face looked uncertain. Even a drop of her special blood essence had no effect. Even though she was currently at her lowest point and was extremely weak, it shouldn't be like this. She was high and mighty, looking down on all the experts, yet she still failed to find a little thief. This was truly unacceptable. An ultimate treasure, an ancient heavenly treasure. She was now completely sure that the other party had a special ancient artifact on him. Otherwise, he definitely wouldn't be like this, definitely falling into her palm, unable to escape. This was too unexpected. Encountering such a shameful little thief who even possessed a certain precious treasure from the Yang realm, it was obvious that he had some background. Could he be a core disciple of one of the strongest orthodoxies? She was guessing. Something's wrong. How could such an aristocratic family hand over their sect's supreme treasure to a young disciple? It was completely child's play. Maybe he's a reincarnated person, an evolver with roots. In the blink of an eye, she thought of many things. In the ancient era of the Yang realm, prehistoric creatures that had evolved to the ultimate level finally reached the end of their lifespans. They reincarnated and reappeared in the world, unearthing the secret treasures of their former years. All kinds of thoughts flashed through her mind as she thought of many things. She was convinced that this was an evolver with a great background. Otherwise, how could he be worthy of possessing a certain supreme, heavenly treasure from the Yang realm? Moreover, he's very shameless. She added another point. That was definitely a fellow lacking in morals. Otherwise, how could he be so hateful and vexing? She let her imagination run wild, and her mood was terrible. She was angered by this matter. With a rumble, she raised her hand and brought the earring, snow-white hairpin, and a pair of combat boots before her eyes. She was going to destroy them with one palm. Since they had been contaminated by someone, it was impossible to take them back. She had mysophobia. Even if these things were all extraordinary and all had great origins, she couldn't wear them on her body again. However, these things weren't destroyed after her palm crushed them. They were truly too durable. Not to mention the others, just those boots were refined from the skin of a white chelan. They were a first-rate heavenly material in the world and extremely luxurious. Among the great orthodoxies in the world, how many could be so extravagant and be willing to use the remains of a white chelan to refine shoes and socks? These things were all rare and precious materials used to refine treasures, so no one will be so wasteful. Hmm. She frowned and sighed inwardly. She was too weak and actually couldn't destroy the earring, hairpin, and other items. Comparatively speaking, the boots began to ignite, producing flames. Rumble. In the end, the great evil spirit directly used a special method to display its own Tao source. Then it guided the law fragments of this world and struck them in one direction. Immediately, there was an intense collision, and it was as if the world was turned upside down. Kacha. At this moment, regardless of whether it was the earring, the hairpin, or the ignited Chilean leather boots, all of them broke apart and quickly disintegrated. The two worlds' laws collided, destroying these rare treasures. In a dazzling brilliance, they turned into fragments, no longer existing in this world. The great evil spirit hesitated slightly and didn't stay for long. It didn't search for Chu Feng's whereabouts either, but instead turned around and left, its traces indistinct. She knew her own situation. She was too weak and far from her peak. She hadn't even escaped the final death tribulation. She couldn't act impulsively and still had to recuperate. Forbidden Land. Her goal was this kind of place. She had received information and clues that certain areas were the best places for her to heal. After a long time, a group of people came whistling over. It was the stone Buddha, Hyin, Hung Tuo, and the others. With their powerful divine senses, they should have long sensed the abnormality of this world. With such a powerful creature making a move, the fluctuations absolutely couldn't be hidden from them. It was just that the heavenly waterfall was too special. It isolated their perception, and only after a long time did they feel it. The Mo family's celestial venerable was simply going crazy. Even if this place was ruined, like a scene after the end of the world, with solidified magma and turbulent void attacks, he still sensed that his family's troops had died. There was a half-step celestial venerable here, turning into ashes and scattering smoke. Direct descendants like Mo Lei and Mo Feng had already died. In the end, the murderer hadn't been caught yet, but a divine king and a half-step celestial venerable had fallen. This was unbearable. You're going too far. If we can't find you this time, we'll ask the old ancestor to make a move. The Mo family's celestial venerable's eyes were cold and deep, like the dark starry sky of the universe. What? My Western Paradise's troops all died here. The Western Paradise's even more ferocious leader appeared. He was a celestial venerable, and the law he had personally written only had ashes left here. Nothing else existed. Who did this? At this moment, let alone others, even the stone Buddha, who was expressionless all year round and rarely spoke, was emotionally moved. His expression greatly changed, and he squatted down to pick up a bit of powder. Hung Tuo's expression also abruptly changed, and he said, "This is an extraordinary thing." It was crushed in a fine powder by someone using a supreme technique. It's too powerful. If those legendary evolvers don't come out, how many people can resist this kind of method? If the virtuous predecessors don't come out, for us, this creature is enough to suppress this era. Hao Yuan's expression was incomparably solemn. These words were enough to make everyone's expression change. Those who came were all experts, and there were quite a few races. At this time, each race's representative walked forward one after another, carefully observing, and then they were shocked. They carefully sensed that there was still some kind of supreme energy aura remaining in this part of the world, making them all horrified. The technique used to destroy these artifacts is too powerful. It's not something an ordinary creature can use. Vaguely, I can also sense the aura of an evil spirit. A famous elder made this kind of judgment. This instantly roused the others. The Hung clan's expert Hung Tuo said, "Not good. Something big has happened. The evil spirit corpse we destroyed isn't the main one. There might be more evil spirits coming. We need to report this and ask the old ancestor to come out. Our clansmen can't die in vain." The Mo clan's heavenly venerable spoke. His face was ashen and incomparably ugly. He was both worried and angry. No matter what, our organization won't let this matter go. The Western Sky Organization's people also spoke. The evil spirit has descended, and we all have a responsibility. We must act together. The others echoed one after another. Not long after, violent energy fluctuations came from this area. The MO clan's supreme expert had arrived, and a terrifying aura covered the sky and earth, enveloping this part of the space. He opened the all-seeing eye between his brows, wanting to see through the source and see through everything. That day, this place was sealed. In a distant land, Chu Feng crossed, who knew how many provinces before finally calming down. He felt that he should be safe. Then, after waiting for a day, he went to inquire about the news, and only then did he know what kind of big event had happened at the sky-piercing waterfall. It was simply explosive. Great evil spirit, that black chick is so savage, he muttered. She had actually annihilated the MO clan and the Western Sky Organization's group of people, making him feel both terrified and carefree at the same time. That big black chick is too powerful. If I fall into her hands, I won't have a good ending. I hope I have no fate in the future and never meet her again, he said to himself. In a certain danger zone where creatures rarely appeared, the great evil spirit couldn't help but sneeze. She made some slight deductions and calculations, and her expression wasn't very good. Someone was talking about her, and she suspected that little thief, but she couldn't find him. Motherf asterisk her, the MO clan is really shameless. They actually put me on the wanted list. Chu Feng wasn't happy. News of what had happened at the sky-piercing waterfall had spread. Long Diyu and Ji Dade were at the heart of the struggle, and they had both become wanted criminals. You think I'm easy to bully? Taking advantage of the chaos to take the initiative to attack, Chu Feng said angrily. In fact, he had his eyes on their land of good fortune and wanted to take advantage of their misfortune. The MO clan's powerhouse had come out of the mountain, and he thought it was a good opportunity to find their remote and empty place to cause trouble. On that day, Chu Feng had successfully looted 3 of the MO clan's properties, all of which were rare treasure mines. After he passed through, not even a blade of grass grew. Someone had seen his young and blurry back. Long Diyu. He must have come to take revenge. We must catch him. The MO clan's people were furious, and they couldn't bear it. In fact, in the past few days, Long Diyu, who had dug up the treasure in the great wilderness and was ready to go out of the mountain, was making a decision. It was time to go to the human world. Xiaolong will go out of the great wilderness and suppress this era. Long Diyu was full of ambition. Chapter 1148. The boundless world of mortals, I Long Diyu, have arrived. From today onwards, I will officially make my debut. I will fall into this world of mortals, become a god, and refine my heart. Long Diyu stood on top of a mountain with his hands behind his back. He was in high spirits as he gazed at the distant city walls with a few young dragons in tow. He had wanted to shout out that he had fallen into a demon, but he felt that it would be beneath his status and not quite appropriate. There were a few silver and black dragons beside him. They had all matured after so many years, their scales shining and draconic energy swirling around their bodies. They were all very powerful. It had only been a few years, yet they had already reached the golden body realm and were about to enter the quasi-sage realm. After following Long Diyu, they had excavated all kinds of treasures in the great wilderness and grew rapidly. I'll go scout out the way first. After all, I've been away from this colorful world for many years, said Long Diyu. In truth, the main reason was that these dragons were too conspicuous when they walked together. Even in human form, they couldn't hide such dense draconic energy. There might be problems when the time came. Long Diyu was still quite cautious. He told them to return to an ancient secret realm in the depths of the great wilderness and wait for his news. I'll come to welcome you guys after I've established myself and conquered a large territory. I'll get myself an identity with some background. Long Diyu left. He broke through the sound barrier with a flap of his wings and sped away. In the end, he constructed a large-scale transportation domain and left this province. Only then did he show himself. However, even though he was quite cautious and had turned into human form, something still happened on that very day. Your original form is a dragon? Damn, black and white. Don't tell me you're Long Dayu. In the evolutionary world, there was no lack of talented creatures. Some people cultivated the heavenly eye, while others were born with a third vertical eye. As such, as soon as Long Dayu showed himself in a certain bustling city, people could see through his origins and discover that his original form was extraordinary. Long Dayu was astonished. That's me. Who would have thought? I'm so famous? He guessed that it might be because of the battle at the desolate border, where he had beaten the invading evolvers into such a sorry state. That news had spread to the outside world, and that was how he became famous. For a moment, he stood proudly with his chest puffed out. He seemed quite conceited and looked down on the world. Heavens, is it really you? A special symbol appeared in the young man's heaven's eye. His voice trembled as he pointed at Long Dayu. Even his finger was trembling. That's right, it's me. Long Dayu proudly raised his head, showing off here, waiting for others to praise him. This is great. The young man immediately pounced over. What are you doing? Long Dayu glared, feeling that this young man was too excited, actually throwing himself at him. Even if he worshipped him, there was no need to be so passionate, right? He curled his lips. It was inappropriate for a man to touch another man. It would be more appropriate if a man and a woman were to pounce on each other. Rumble. In the next moment, his body went taut. It was because the other party had opened a large net to trap him. Whoosh! Long Dayu had mastered an unparalleled secret technique. He dodged immediately and did not fall into the net. What are you doing? He shouted. Second uncle, we're rich. Long Dayu is here. The youngster shouted. Being able to evolve the heavenly eye, he was naturally not simple. At this moment, he was even more so summoning his elders. What Long Dayu? On the street, within a medicinal herb house, a middle-aged man rushed out with a whoosh. His entire body was covered in flames, and runes interweaved. With a rumble, a flaming rope flew out and was about to bind Long Dayu. Long Dayu turned to flee. What the hell was going on? Long Dayu, stop right there, the young man shouted. Shut up. What are you shouting for? Are you afraid people won't know? The young man's uncle was angry and quickly gave chase. The young man trembled, feeling that he had been too rash. This was a bandit with a large bounty. If he really caught him, the bounty would be frighteningly high. He absolutely could not let this information leak. But it was already too late. Others had already heard, and many people turned back in unison. Long Dayu cursed inwardly. Had he encountered a pair of uncle and nephew with mental problems? What were they shouting for? Then, Long Dayu discovered that the entire street had quieted down. Everyone was looking at him, their eyes glowing with green light, as if they were staring at a rare treasure. These people's gazes were too evil. It made Long Dayu shiver all over, and he felt extremely uncomfortable. It was a bit like a decades-old bachelor eyeing a peerless beauty running around naked. After a short moment of silence, the entire street boiled with a rumble. All the evolvers moved like mad bulls, madly rushing over. This street was originally a spirit medicine street. Most of the people who came here were evolvers, and they had naturally seen the huge bounty in recent days. Long Dayu, don't run. It's really that strange dragon. Where do you think you're going? The entire street was in an uproar, like a herd of wild primordial bulls. The entire street rumbled, and all kinds of palms opened up, grabbing at Long Dayu. Damn, what's going on? Long Dayu was completely dumbfounded. Was he that famous? He had only shown his face back then. He had been in seclusion for so many years. How did he become famous as soon as he came out? Was this the passion of a group of crazy fans, or a group of possessed evolvers trying to capture him? His hair stood on end as he turned and ran. Next, he rushed into the sky, leaving the street. But just as he rushed into the sky, he found that the sky was densely packed with all kinds of creatures chasing after him. Long Dayu, surrender. Someone shouted. Buzz. Long Dayu had no choice but to transform into his true form. His black and white wings flapped, and astral winds surged. He was extremely fast. He had dug up so many ancient treasures and obtained many fortunes. For example, he had 2 Kuan Peng feathers, which he fused into his own wings. This allowed him to fly in the sky and burrow into the ground when he was still weak. Evolvers stronger than him could not catch up to him. Long Dayu's scalp went numb because he saw the entire city in an uproar. Countless creatures rushed into the sky, all chasing after him. The city was rioting. Is this young master so popular? He was really scared out of his wits and began to flee. He was puzzled. Why did so many people have their eyes on him as soon as he appeared, madly chasing and intercepting him? This province he had chosen had nothing to do with the forces that had appeared in the dragon's lair. On the contrary, there were all kinds of legends about the dragon race here, and this province was the most friendly to the dragon race. But the result made him dumbfounded and flabbergasted. Long Dayu, you can't escape. A loud shout came from behind. A group of flying swords tore through the sky and stabbed toward his buttocks. Following that, all kinds of short spears pierced through the clouds like shocking rainbows and flew toward him. Behind him, the entire city was densely packed. The evolvers were all moving, forming a torrent of steel as they chased after him. F***, are you kidding me? Are you all sick? Long Dayu was shocked and angry. It was inexplicable. He was actually so unpopular that the whole city was chasing after him. Bang! A secret treasure flew over and exploded near him, causing him to scream miserably. Even though he had dug out many secret treasures in the past few years and armed himself to the teeth with astonishing defensive power, he could not withstand it now. All kinds of energy balls of light exploded nearby. The flying swords hacked at him, causing him to tumble. In almost a moment, a few dragon scales fell off, and he was even beaten black and blue by a flying rod. Only this Master Long can do this. If it were any other person or dragon, they would have exploded on the spot and turned into a bloody pulp. F***, I lost another defensive talisman. My heart hurts. Long Dayu was flustered and exasperated. He was attacked inexplicably, and some divine treasures exploded one after another. One had to know that his realm was still not high, and he might not be able to control excessively powerful items. The items that suited him were definitely of high quality and could be controlled across realms. In the end, the items on his body exploded like firecrackers. You've got the wrong person. I'm not Long Dayu. He shouted. Bah! Strange dragon, it's you. Where are you going? The people behind didn't believe him and madly chased after him. Long Dayu was about to cry. He had to burn several heavenly escape talismans before he could increase his speed to the limit and disappear from this place. These were inestimable items, and they made his heart bleed. God damn it, even a divine king has appeared. He was horrified. In the end, he decisively produced a space-piercing talisman and completely left this world, vanishing without a trace. What a pity! Long Dayu actually appeared here. We missed him. Someone beat his chest and stamped his feet. When Long Dayu emerged from the void, he just happened to land on a mountain ridge. He wiped his sweat and was still puzzled. What was going on today? Was he being possessed? He really had 8 lifetimes of bad luck. Hey, a strange dragon. It looks like Long Dayu. Someone cried out in surprise. Some of the herb gatherers in this area looked over with flickering eyes. Then, with a loud rumble, someone made a move, decisively and quickly attacking Long Dayu from the back. You're a mountain villager. Do you also want to catch me? Long Dayu fled in fright. There was really no place to reason with him. What evil thing did he do? He was actually being chased everywhere. Long Dayu ran away again. This mountain ridge was famous for its spirit medicine mountain. There were many herb gatherers with extraordinary strength, and all of them were chasing after him. When he used up another space-piercing talisman and appeared in the vicinity of a city, the tragedy repeated itself. The city was full of evolvers howling like a gluttonous feast. Everyone's eyes were full of green light as they all chased after him. The sky was filled with figures, and all kinds of secret treasures were madly smashing towards him. Damn! Jing! Su! He was sad and indignant. He cursed again and ran away. Long Dayu was about to cry. Who did he offend? He thought that he had been very low-key and hadn't shown himself for all these years. No matter what kind of storm there was, it should have passed, right? But in the end, he had just appeared in the world. Why did he become the enemy of the whole world? And everyone was shouting to kill him. Long Dayu was miserable, resentful, and cursing. He began his grand plan to escape. In fact, he was dumbfounded. Until now, he still didn't know why. Why was he like a wanted criminal? Everywhere he went, people shouted to kill him, and there was no way to reason with him. This young master will curse the heavens and the earth. This is really bad luck. Who did I offend? I need an explanation. That day, Long Dayu was extremely miserable. He was covered with cuts and bruises. As soon as he showed up, he was chased by people. Even if he had all kinds of treasures, including the Kuan Pung feather, it was not enough. He was covered with wounds and was almost killed. He cursed all the way and fled without looking back. This young master came out of the mountain to refine his heart in the world of mortals. But damn it, it can't be so exciting. Everyone in the world wants to refine me. My heart has been tempered to a terrible state. I hashtag yin% that you're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.